Chapter 2432. The remaining aura in the air was too powerful. At the very least, a top-notch skypride had made a move. Something like the Earth Spirit liquid probably wouldn't cause these top-notch skyprides to make a move. There should be something else. Baiyu! Huatiandu shouted in a deep voice. Here. A young man in a white robe walked out from behind him. His white hair fluttered in the wind, and he was very handsome. He came to the front and quickly formed a seal with his palms. At the same time, his eyes also changed incomparably. His black pupils disappeared, and his entire eyeballs turned pale as if they were in chaos. Seeing this scene, the others waited silently. After a while, Bai's white eyes disappeared, and he returned to normal. He took a deep breath, waved his hand, and described what he saw. The spiritual energy in the sky condensed and formed images. This was what happened before. This was the Yi family's sacred body, right? He actually made a move. What exactly was that? When the crowd saw the golden light shoot into the sky, they were all shocked. Everyone knew about the Yi family's sacred body. Everyone knew the potential and terror of a sacred body. They had to pay attention. This was the Alcate Saint, right? He was indeed powerful. His strength was probably not below a sacred body. Several elders looked at the figure surrounded by 108 gods and Buddhas with solemn expressions. Who was this kid? He was so terrifying. He could actually suppress the 5 elements saint and the 1,000 thunder saint. Many people looked at the red-robed young man and frowned. One of the elders said, "There seems to be something wrong with the 2 swords in his hands. He's not a saint of the sacred ground. I don't know him." Huatiandu looked at the figure and shook his head slightly. Yenruya's lips curled into a beautiful smile. However, when she shifted her gaze and looked up, her pupils shrank. This was... She pointed forward, puzzled. Everyone's gaze also shifted away from the saints and looked up. They realized that there were 3 butterflies. There were bronze bells tied to their bodies in an octagonal shape with mysterious and strange runes engraved on them. What was that? Huatiandu also frowned. An elder of the Demon King Palace exclaimed, "Flower Protector! Damn it, it was Flower Protector! Are you talking about the legendary weapon Flower Protector? Why would she appear here?" Huatiandu was shocked. Even Yenryu was surprised. The others were also discussing spiritedly. Naturally, they had heard of the legend of Flower Protector. Wasn't this a weapon refined by a peerless devil of the human race? Why would it appear in our demon sage's tomb? Could it be that our demon saint obtained it? They could not understand. Even a weapon like the Flower Protector had appeared. It seemed that this place was more complicated than we had imagined. An elder frowned. Another person asked, "Could they deduce which demonic saint it was?" Yenryu and the others shook their heads. They could not tell yet. Everyone looked around again. Then Huatiandu said, "Let's go and take a look. It seems like this ancient tomb is more interesting than we thought. Looks like I can't fall too far behind. Otherwise, all the good stuff will be snatched away by those people." The other elders nodded their heads as well, and the group of them prepared to move forward. However, at this time, Yenryu suddenly frowned. The next moment she turned her head. "What's wrong? What happened?" Huatiandu was puzzled. The others also turned their heads, wanting to ask. However, at this moment, a crisp sound came from above. Everyone felt dizzy, as if they had felt a strong impact. "Ah!" Many young warriors screamed. The elders of the Demon Imperial Palace all shouted angrily. "Damn it, who is it?" Yenruya's gaze was like a divine rainbow, streaking across the void. Flower Protector. There was another Flower Protector here. There was actually another one. The others were shocked, but Huatiandu was wild with joy. "Great, we must get it. Attack." With an order, the elders all attacked. However, in the next moment, they were pushed back by a strong energy. The blood in these elders' bodies was boiling, and their faces were full of shock. What a terrifying Flower Protector. Why did it feel like the power of the last one was much stronger than the previous ones? Indeed, when they looked at the light screen, they found that although the Flower Protector was strong, it was not too difficult for those people to take it. However, when it came to them, why was it so terrifying? So many elders attacked together, but they were all pushed back. It was unbelievable. He didn't know. Perhaps the 3 Flower Protectors from before had been sealed. Perhaps the seal of this one was weaker, so the power it displayed was greater. Yenryu's eyes flickered. Of course, this was all speculation. Clang! Clang! Just as they were discussing, a butterfly flew out from the cave above. There was a bronze bell tied to its body, and it made a clanging sound in the air. Every time it vibrated, a sound wave would sweep in all directions. The space was shattering all day long, as if there was a giant hammer smashing into the void. Quick, defend! All of you retreat! The elders shouted angrily. They unleashed countless defensive spells in front of them to block the attack. Huatiandu roared, and a terrifying aura was emitted from his body. A layer of purple scales even appeared on his body. In the next moment, he stretched out a large purple hand and grabbed at the void. This large purple hand was very terrifying, and there were also rare scales on it. It carried a shocking power, and directly enveloped Flower Protector. Boom boom boom. Flower Protector quickly attacked, and light waves blasted on the large purple hand. The strong wind was mighty, and the terrifying power made it hard for people to breathe. Damn it! In the end, Huatiandu could not hold on, and retracted the large purple hand. His face was extremely gloomy. Humph! He snorted coldly, and wanted to use his trump card. However, at this moment, Yenryu made her move. She stretched out her slender hand and slapped forward. This palm was extremely white, as if it was carved out of immortal jade, and appeared in the sky. Around his palm, 9 mysterious runes appeared, exuding an unfathomable power. Seal! Yenryu chuckled, and the 9 runes rotated, completely enveloping Flower Protector. Buzz! Flower Protector trembled, and a terrifying light tore through the void, shattering the surrounding space. In the sky, the 9 mysterious runes dimmed, and it seemed like they were about to shatter. Seeing this, Yenryu snorted coldly, and spat out a green light from her mouth, which instantly shot into the sky. This light was too fast, and no one could see what it was. It was like a divine rainbow, and it directly pressed on Flower Protector, causing Flower Protector to stop trembling immediately. Whoosh! The 9 runes flickered, and entered Flower Protector, completely sealing it. Whoosh! The green light turned and returned to Yenryu's body. The whole process was very fast, and the surrounding people did not even know what it was. However, in the next moment their eyes widened. Chapter 2433. Yenryu gently waved her hand, and Flower Protector floated over, and landed in her hand. Hee. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly, and she shook it gently. The tinkling sounds were heard, carrying a terrifying feeling. However, at this moment, it had already been sealed, and could not hurt anyone. The elders of the Demon Imperial Palace were all stunned. Those young martial artists also had faces full of shock. Huatiandu narrowed his eyes and laughed loudly. Ryu, good move. Yenryu smiled, and took out a red rope from her storage ring. She tied Flower Protector, and hung it on her waist. Let's go. After subduing Flower Protector, Yenryu was in a good mood, so she walked forward with graceful steps. Behind her, the people of the Demon Imperial Palace quickly followed. They set off forward. On the other side, in the cave ahead, everyone had their eyes on the black bugs, because they now knew that the black bugs were made of heaven-grade treasures, dark night demonic gold. It was an incomparably precious metal. Therefore, for a moment these people attacked crazily, but soon they regretted it, because they realized that these bugs could not be subdued at all. Ordinary earth-grade treasures could not cause any damage to them. At most, they would be sent flying. However, the worms waddled back. Collect! An elder of the Illusion Palace roared angrily. He threw out a purple gourd, and collected the bugs around him. The purple gourd flickered and instantly collected dozens of black bugs. Ha 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 ha! Seeing this scene, the elder was very happy. He waved his hand and took back the purple gourd. Whoosh whoosh whoosh! He shook the gourd, wanting to continue collecting. Crack crack crack. Suddenly, the gourd in his hand made a cracking sound. Then the entire gourd split into 2. The dozens of black bugs crawled out again. Damn it! How could this be? The elder of the Illusion Palace was so angry that he went crazy. He fiercely bombarded the black bugs. However, his hands were numb. These bugs could not be harmed at all because they were not living creatures at all. They were puppets. They could not feel anything, let alone feel pain. Watch me. An elder of the 5 Elements Palace waved his hand, and a 5-colored net fell from the sky, instantly trapping dozens of black bugs. This was the 5 Elements net. It was formed from the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. It had been refined by the elders of the 5 Elements Palace for hundreds of years. It could be said that it was extremely terrifying. In an instant, he also caught dozens of black bugs and took them back. The 5 Elements net released light, releasing the power of the 5 elements, wrapping around these black bugs, wanting to seal them. As long as he could bring it back to the 5 Elements Palace, he would be able to refine it into dark night demonic gold. Then, he would be able to create a new heaven-tier treasure. Thinking of this, the people from the 5 Elements Palace all laughed. Not long after they laughed, they were also stunned. This was because cracks had appeared on the 5 Elements net. Dozens of black bugs had bitten through the 5 Elements net and escaped again. Damn it! It could even bite through the power of the 5 elements? The elders of the 5 Elements Palace widened their eyes in disbelief. The others also sucked in a breath of cold air. It seemed that this black bug was really not easy to seal. Was there really no other way? Pung, pung, pung. Just as everyone was discussing and trying all kinds of methods, one side suddenly trembled. Then, a black shadow walked out in front of them. The black shadow was not tall. It was only about 1 meter tall, but it was unusually heavy. Every step it took made the ground tremble. What was that? Could it be that another monster had appeared? Everyone stopped what they were doing and looked forward. What? They were extremely shocked, and many people's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. They saw a terrifying thing walking out in front of them. It was extremely black, like a tortoise, but it walked upright. There was a black tortoise shell on its back, which was full of needles. There was also a black tail behind it, which was also full of black needles. What was that? A tortoise? Everyone was surprised. No, look at its head. Why did it look like a flood dragon? A dragon tortoise. Everyone was talking about it. At that moment, the elders exclaimed in surprise. Heavens, is that guy also made of dark night demonic gold? Thinking of that, everyone swallowed hard. The amount of dark night demonic gold that the black dragon tortoise contained was comparable to all the other insects. For a moment, many people looked at it with bloodshot eyes. What was the point of snatching so many insects? They would be rich if they could just snatch the black dragon tortoise away. They did as they thought. Among them, many elders from the sacred grounds and major sects quickly made their moves. One after another, terrifying attacks were launched forward. In an instant, they landed on the black dragon tortoise. Boom, boom, boom. It was forced to retreat. When the light that filled the sky disappeared, everyone was dumbfounded. That was because there was no injury on the black dragon tortoise's body. In fact, there was not even a crack on it. Roar! The black dragon tortoise roared angrily, and a trace of red light appeared in its eyes. Oh no, it's going to counterattack. Everyone was shocked. As expected, following the roar, a dangerous aura emanated from the dragon tortoise's body. Not only that, the surrounding black insects also began to move. They quickly attacked in all directions. For a moment, everyone screamed in pain and kept retreating. Buzz! Boom! The elder of the 5 Elements Palace screamed in pain and was sent flying. He crashed into the wall and vomited blood. Even the void was smashed into pieces. Damn it, what happened? The people of the 5 Elements Palace exclaimed, and the others also looked gloomy. They only saw a black shadow flash, and the elder of the 5 Elements Palace was sent flying. Boom! At that moment, the elder of the Illusion Palace also screamed in pain and was sent flying. God knows how many bones in his body were broken. Damn it, it's that dragon tortoise. It attacked. This time, everyone finally saw it clearly. The black dragon tortoise leaped high into the air and spun in the air like a spinning top before charging over. This collision contained boundless power. Moreover, there were many black thorns on the dragon tortoise's body, which multiplied the power of the collision. Watch me. The 4 Symbols Saint roared angrily, and his body emitted an incomparable light that made the entire world tremble. What terrifying power! Everyone was shocked. The 4 Symbols Saint was too terrifying. Could it be that the Yaoguang Holy Land had brought a supreme weapon? No, that was impossible. They couldn't have brought a supreme weapon. Elder Li and the others shook their heads. Soon, someone shook his head in the distance. It was not a dragon pattern cauldron. It was a replica. Hearing that it was not a supreme weapon, the dragon pattern cauldron, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. However, they were still extremely shocked. Even if it was a replica, it was still a replica of a supreme weapon. It definitely surpassed an Earth-grade treasure. It was very likely that it had reached the level of a heaven-grade treasure. Moreover, such replicas usually had one or two very powerful ultimate moves. More importantly, those ultimate moves were related to supreme weapons. Therefore, they did not dare to be careless. For a moment, all the sacred grounds and sects were on guard. Even those from the royal family had solemn expressions. Fortunately, the Alcade Saint had no intention of attacking those people. He shouted coldly and activated the replica dragon pattern cauldron to envelop the area in front of him. In an instant, he had also captured dozens of insects. In the next moment, he put away the replica dragon pattern cauldron and said coldly, "Let's go. Qingcheng, you guys go first." Seeing more and more people leaving, Lin Xian said to Murong Qingcheng, who was standing right next to him. Murong Qingcheng nodded and left with the elders of the Jade Lake Sacred Ground. "Young master, let's do it too," Xing Tian asked. Lin Xian nodded. Then, Elder Li and the other two started to attack. They took out a pagoda and sealed dozens of insects. Buzz! Bang! At that moment, a muffled groan came from afar. A few black-robed martial artists spat out mouthfuls of blood. Their faces were extremely pale. The flutes in their hands also fell to the ground. Damn it, I can't control them. What's going on? These people were extremely shocked. One of the elders gritted his teeth. These insects contained the will of a saint. Even if they took them away, they would not feel comfortable. Let's go quickly. These people picked up the flutes, wiped away the blood and quickly left. They did not capture any more insects. When the others heard this, they were extremely shocked. Contained the will of a saint. Is this true? If this was true, then even if they took them away, it would be difficult to subdue them. They might even be counterattacked. For a moment, these people were bewildered. However, after looking for a long time, they did not see any will of a saint. Therefore, these people still chose to attack. Who are those black-robed men? Lin Xian asked in a deep voice. Elder Li, who had already collected a few dozen worms, said quickly as he glanced at the few black figures. They should be from Nanling. Which family wouldn't know? But judging from their appearance, they should be beast tamers. Chapter 2435. I'm guessing that these bugs were created by the sage and were infused with the sage's will. If that's the case, none of us here can tame them. It's been tens of thousands of years. Is the sage's will still so strong? Lin Xian was puzzled. It had indeed weakened, but it wasn't something that an ordinary person could tame. To tame them, one would need to be at least an invincible king-level soul. Moreover, it was only a possibility. Unless what? Seeing that Elder Li didn't say anything, Lin Xian continued to ask. Elder Li sighed. Only someone with a heaven-defying eye technique would be able to do so. Bloodline eye technique. Hearing this, the corners of Lin Xian's mouth curled up. Wasn't he talking about the heavenly secret divine eyes? Although he didn't know how many terrifying bloodline eye techniques there were in this world, there was no doubt that the heavenly secret divine eyes was definitely a mysterious and terrifying one. Let's give it a try, Lin Xian thought. If his heavenly secret divine eyes could really tame these bugs, then it would be much safer and more delicious. It would be much more reliable than searching for these bugs directly. After all, no one knew if there would be any mistakes during the sealing process. If he could tame them, then it would be different. Thinking of this, a trace of golden light appeared in his eyes. Buzz! Soon he stared at a black bug nearby. The golden light swept past. However, in the next moment, Lin Xian frowned and his pupils constricted. This was because he felt that the black bug was emitting an extremely terrifying aura that was rushing towards him. This gave him a fright, but he activated his heavenly secret divine eyes and burned the attack. Young master, are you trying to tame these bugs? The people around also felt a chill down their spines, because they all felt that terrifying aura just now, as if they were being stared at by the Grim Reaper. Could this be the sage's will? Xing Tian was shocked. Although it was very faint, it wasn't something that they could fight against. The dark red divine dragon was also scared. Kid, are you reliable? If you're not, then hurry up and leave. He had lived for thousands of years, and knew how terrifying the sage was. There probably wasn't another person as bold as Lin Xian, who dared to challenge the sage's will. Was this the sage's will? He wasn't that strong. Of course, Lin Xian knew that after tens of thousands of years, the sage's will had been weakened. Moreover, the saint's will contained in these insects might be relatively rare. After all, in the eyes of the sages, these bugs were probably just toys. It wouldn't take too much effort. However, this just so happened to benefit Lin Xian. Thinking of this, Lin Xian smiled and said, Xing Tian, elderly, protect me. Hearing those words, the eyelids of Xing Tian, elderly, and the others twitched. Hu Yidao ghostly, and the others were also shocked. It can't be. Does the palace master really want to tame these insects? They were all stunned. They couldn't believe it. The dark red divine dragon asked from the side. Kid, are you confident? Didn't you see that the beast tamers from Nanling were injured? If you get injured, it won't be a joke. That's right, palace master. We've already sealed quite a few black bugs, it's about time. Elder Li and the others also advised. Don't worry, I'm confident. Lin Xian smiled. He was indeed confident. The impact that he suffered previously was probably a trace of the saint's will. He realized that the saint's will had weakened to the point that he could resist it. Therefore, Lin Xian decided to give it a try. Moreover, even if there was really danger, he had the saint's bone in his hand, which should be able to resist the saint's will. Seeing Lin Xian's insistence, Xing Tian, elderly, and the others had no choice but to take a deep breath and secretly prepare to attack. This was because they didn't think that Lin Xian could succeed. Lin Xian ignored them. Golden light bloomed in his eyes, and instantly shrouded a black bug. Boom. Sure enough, in the next moment, the saint's will rushed out. However, it was already weakened, so Lin Xian used the soul ignition secret technique to resist it. Not only that, he also burned the weakened saint's will. God's guidance. In Lin Xian's eyes, the golden light formed mysterious runes that rushed out and imprinted on the black bug's body. This was also a divine ability formed by the heavenly secret divine eyes. It was used to control the other party's soul and turn them into a puppet. Sure enough, as soon as God's guidance was used, the black bug stopped struggling and became very docile. Lin Xian waved his hand, and the black bug flew over and crawled on his hand. Success! Seeing this scene, a smile appeared on his face in his sleep. What? Behind him, Xing Tian, elderly, and the others looked at this scene with their eyes wide open in disbelief. Hu Yidao and the others were even more shocked. What kind of technique was this? It could actually destroy the saint's will. Although it was a weakened saint's will, no one below the invincible king level could destroy it. Even invincible kings wouldn't dare to have such confidence. After all, saints were extremely terrifying existences that transcended heaven and earth. But now their palace master had actually managed to accomplish it. This was simply too inconceivable. Thinking of this, they were extremely excited. Even Elder Li, Xing Tian, and the others' eyes were shining. The dark red dragon was even more excited. Great, if we can control these bugs, no one will be our match. At that time, we'll kill all who stand in our way. Let's see if they still dare to be rude to us. Indeed, the dark red dragon was right. These bugs were equivalent to a small heaven-grade artifact. When combined, they would definitely be a terrifying killing machine. Its power wouldn't be weaker than the flower protector. Moreover, they couldn't use the flower protector now. But as long as they controlled the bugs, they could use them immediately. It's not that easy. Lin Xian shook his head. Although the saint's will was weakened, it wasn't that easy to erase it. It would consume a lot of my soul power, and I would have to imprint my will, which would consume even more. It's impossible to take away all of it. It would probably be enough to get a few dozen of them. Kid, you can first erase the saint's will and get it first. Then you can slowly plant your own will. This way, you should be able to get more. The dark red divine dragon suggested from the side. Lin Xian nodded. He also planned to do so. Therefore, next, Xing Tian and the others guarded closely, while Lin Xian began to erase the saint's will of those black bugs. When he erased the 100th one, Lin Xian felt dizzy. He knew that he had reached his limit. No, he could use the heavenly secret divine eyes again, so he decisively gave up. Chapter 2436. Moreover, the others were still in danger, because no one knew when the sage's will would erupt. However, the 100 people that Lin Xian captured had their sage's will completely erased, so they were absolutely safe. However, Xing Tian, elderly, and the others were a little worried, because they realized that Lin Xian's face was too pale. Lin Xian shook his head. It was fine. It was not a big deal that his soul had been exhausted. He would be fine after he recovered. As he spoke, he took out recovery pills and natural treasures. He even dripped 3 drops of earth spirit liquid. Let's go, Xing Tian said. Then the group of people protected Lin Xian and quickly left. Buzz. However, just as they moved, the void fluctuated, and a fierce murderous aura rushed toward them. In the sky, a cold light flew directly toward Lin Xian's head. Damn it! Who is it? How dare you sneak attack me? The dark red dragon roared. Xing Tian shouted coldly and threw a punch. Boom! With a single punch, the rainbow-like ray of light exploded. Whoosh! A violent wind blew between heaven and earth, and the terrifying space shook the surroundings. Everyone was shocked and quickly distanced themselves. However, the people of Immortal Palace had gloomy expressions. Someone dared to sneak attack their palace master at this time. Did they want to die? Lin Xian also frowned, and a cold murderous intent appeared in his eyes. He had just exhausted his soul, and the other party attacked. It was obvious that the other party had been secretly observing him, waiting for an opportunity. Who was it? He looked around. Soon he saw the front. It was the people of Tai Dynasty. His face darkened. Needless to say, it was definitely the first prince's people. Damn it, the first prince was too despicable. He had tried to kill him time and time again. Last time, he killed General Xianying, but these people did not know how to restrain themselves. It seemed that it was time to get rid of the first prince's people. Xing Tian, elderly, and the others also noticed the other party, and immediately cold murderous intent bloomed in their eyes. Hui Dao ghostly, and the others were even more murderous. Someone dared to attack their palace master, and it was a sneak attack. This was unforgivable. Not good. This was the famous longbow king of Tai Dynasty. His archery skills were unparalleled in the world. He was especially good at long-range attacks. We must be careful, Elder Wang reminded from the side. When the others heard this, their faces also turned cold. Indeed, the murderous aura of that arrow was too shocking. Furthermore, he appeared and disappeared mysteriously, making it hard to guard against him. If it weren't for the fact that they had so many experts on their side, with Lin Xian's current state, he might really be in danger. The Longbow King was a young man, about 17 or 18 years old. However, everyone knew that this was definitely an old monster that had lived for over 1,000 years. His strength was incomparably terrifying. He was a true peerless almighty. Longbow King, what is the meaning of this? Elder Wang shouted coldly. You dare to go against us? Don't you want to live anymore? When the Longbow King heard this, a cold smile appeared on his handsome face. That brat killed General Xianying. I am here on the orders of Empress Tai to take his life. Do you think you can protect them? Even if you manage to escape this time, with Empress Tai's strength and foundation, can you escape the next time, and the time after that? So, just surrender obediently, and I can give him a quick death. Courting death. Empress Tai, even the Emperor of Tai Dynasty dares not to be rude to us. How dare you ambush us? Xing Tian also shouted coldly. You reckless thing. Who do you think you are? The Longbow King sneered. He attacked again. Buzz! 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 Arrows flew out one after another, and the arrow chi was like rainbows that tore through the void, quickly charging towards Lin Xian. The terrifying murderous aura made people's faces turn pale, and their bodies tremble. The surroundings were dark and colorless, and only the 3 terrifying arrows shone in all directions. You are courting death. Xing Tian was furious. He took a step forward, and his body was like a fiend god. Xing Tian, block him. We will take the palace master away first. Elder Li said quickly. Xing Tian nodded his head. After which, Elder Li and the others brought Lin Xian along and flew forward. You want to leave? Longbow King sneered when he saw this. He shot out another 3 arrows. They appeared and disappeared mysteriously, and charged towards Lin Xian. In the blink of an eye, they appeared around Lin Xian. However, they were all shattered by Elder Li, Elder Wang, Elder Lu and Elder Zhang. Soon Lin Xian and the others disappeared. Longbow King shouted coldly, and wanted to chase after them. At this moment, Xing Tian also made his move. In the face of the 3 terrifying arrows, he roared and slapped out his palm. It was like a huge hand that covered the sky, shattering the space in front of him, and forming a terrifying black hole. The 3 arrows that shone with divine light were all swallowed by the black hole. How dare you attack the young master? You are dead meat today. Xing Tian's voice was cold. It seemed that he was really angry. He was sent by the old palace master to protect Lin Xian. He didn't expect that someone would dare to attack Lin Xian. Moreover, it was an elder who had lived for thousands of years. He couldn't stand it. Therefore he had to make a move. Longbow King's face darkened when he saw that the other party had shattered his attack. When he saw that Lin Xian and the others had disappeared, his killing intent soared. How dare you block my path? Fine, I'll kill you and then kill that kid. Longbow King was also very angry, so he didn't show any mercy. Today I'll let you see my ultimate move, the 7th God archery technique. At this point, he shouted and the power in his body suddenly erupted. A bright light shone in all directions. At this moment, he was like an immortal, making people unable to open their eyes. Buzz! A red bow appeared in his hand. As soon as it appeared, it swept in all directions with a terrifying light. The bow was like a flood dragon, coiling in the void, and being held by Longbow King. Buzz buzz buzz! The killing intent on their bodies erupted again, shattering the entire space. At this moment, the remaining people in the surroundings quickly retreated with fear on their faces. What a terrifying killing intent! They quickly distanced themselves. At the same time, the armor on their bodies rose up to protect their bodies. Buzz! An arrow flew out, tearing through the void, and returning to the front with a long ray of light. Seeing the other party's arrow, Xing Tian's expression turned solemn. He knew that the other party was a powerful opponent, so he had to fight with his full strength. But soon, his expression became even more solemn because after the first arrow, the second arrow flew over. This arrow was filled with a murderous aura and a monstrous sea of blood. Before it arrived, the murderous aura made his body tremble. 2 arrows, one sharp and the other murderous, one in front and one behind, formed a mysterious combination that was enough to destroy everything. Subheaven Grade Artifact. 7th God Archery Technique. Many of the elders in the surroundings exclaimed. They naturally recognized Longbow King, but they didn't expect him to use such a terrifying killing move. It's over, that guy is dead for sure. Chapter 2437. That's for sure. That kid must be from Immortal Palace. Humph. The people from Immortal Palace are really arrogant. They've provoked so many factions, and now they want to go against the peerless powerhouse of Tai Dynasty. I really don't know what they're thinking. The spectators sneered again and again. They didn't know Xing Tian, so they didn't think that Xing Tian could resist them. Xing Tian looked at the 2 peerless killing intents and shouted coldly. He threw out a punch. Boom! The space in front of him shattered, and a pitch-black hole appeared. It spread in all directions, and formed a half-moon shape. The half-moon-shaped black hole was like a giant beast in the abyss. It was incomparably dark, and emitted a terrifying aura. Whoosh! It abruptly opened its mouth, and swallowed the 2 mysterious lights. It's useless. You can't swallow my 7 gods archery technique. On the other side, Longbow King sneered. The surrounding people's eyes flickered. They didn't think much of it. However, they were soon stunned, because the 2 7 gods arrows didn't appear again. Damn it! How is that possible? Longbow King was also stunned. His 7 gods archery technique could pierce through the void without a problem. Therefore, he wasn't afraid of the black hole. But why didn't it appear this time? It doesn't seem to be an ordinary black hole. An elder from Grand Xia dynasty frowned. It seems to be connected to a universe. Look, there are stars flickering inside. Are you saying that the black hole lured the two arrows into the universe? It seems to be the case. The surrounding powerhouses discussed animatedly. Spatial divine ability? Isn't that the Gu family's divine ability? What's the relationship between this person and the Gu family? They were surprised. However, some people shook their heads. Not only the Gu family had spatial divine ability, the Gu family had the Void Emperor and passed down the Void technique, so their spatial divine ability was very famous. However, other powerhouses might also have spatial divine ability, but there were fewer of them. If the person in front of them wasn't a space-type king, then he might have a space-type divine ability. They guessed right. Xing Tian had indeed mastered a space-type fist technique called sky shattering. One punch could shatter the void and connect to the mysterious universe. It could devour and exile everything. The previous punch was the sky-shattering fist. Spatial divine ability. So that's how it is. But do you think you can fight me with that? Longbow King shouted coldly. His black hair fluttered in the wind, and his body emitted a sharp aura. With a wave of his hand, blood dyed the void red, dripping onto the bough in front of him, causing a bloody light to overflow into the sky. Longbow King drew his bow again. This time, his movements were extremely fast as he continuously drew his bow and shot out 5 rays of light in a row. Presumably, these were the last 5 rays of the 7 gods archery technique. As soon as these 5 rays of light appeared, it crushed the void. They flickered in the sky. Each one of them was like a giant dragon, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws, emitting an exceptional aura. At that moment, even the faces of those exceptional almighties changed. They could feel that if they were hit by these 5 arrows, even a peerless mighty figure would die. How terrifying! Could it be the legendary heaven-tier archery technique, 7 God Arrow? The 7 rainbow piercing the sun could shatter everything. Unless he dodged, there was no way he could take it head-on. No, unless he faced it head-on, there was no way to dodge it. Someone corrected her. Just watch, he definitely won't be able to escape, unless he has a heaven-defying defensive treasure. I reckon that this time, his space god art might not work. Everyone around was a top-notch powerhouse. With their knowledge and experience, they were naturally very terrifying. At that moment, they directly deduced the next battle situation. Boom! In the sky, 5 rays of light flew over, connecting heaven and earth, forming a strange scene. At that moment, the world lost its color, and only the 5 rays of light flew in the sky. Xing Tian also roared furiously. He felt a great sense of danger. Boom boom boom. He continuously waved his fists, and used the space-shattering fist, shattering all the surrounding void, forming terrifying black holes one after another. There were stars flickering inside, which was obviously connected to the universe beyond the sky. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. These spaces were also very direct, engulfing the 5 rays of light. Whoosh. These spaces quickly healed. Were they engulfed? The surrounding people were shocked. Could it be that this person's space power had already reached such a heaven-defying level? They didn't dare to imagine. Crack crack crack. All of a sudden, the surrounding space began to emit cracking sounds, as if a mirror was shattering. Countless cracks spread in all directions, and then it collapsed with a loud bang. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. 5 rays of light that devoured the heavens and split the earth directly rushed out. It shattered. They really came out. The surrounding people exclaimed. It seemed that their guess was right. The other party's space power couldn't suppress the 7 gods' arrow art this time. Seeing this scene, the longbow monarch in the distance laughed. Xing Tian's face became incomparably gloomy. He didn't expect the arrows to be so terrifying that even his space-shattering fist couldn't suppress them. Go to hell for me. The longbow monarch sneered. 5 rays of light burst out, and the earth-shattering rays of light flew quickly towards Xing Tian, wanting to pierce through him. Xing Tian roared as his body swayed. He changed his position and kept flashing in the sky. However, the 5 rays of light were very spiritual. No matter where he flashed, the 5 rays of light could firmly lock onto him. Ha 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 ha. It's useless. You can't escape at all. The longbow monarch looked up to the sky and laughed as if he could already see the other party being pierced through. Since he couldn't escape, he would shatter it. Xing Tian roared. His figure was tall, and his black hair fluttered in the wind. At this moment, he looked like a war demon. He didn't escape but stood in the void. With a roar, an unparalleled power erupted from his body. Ha! 5 rays of light appeared beside him, forming 5 huge palms. They were incomparably ancient, and looked like the hands of the heavens. These 5 palms grabbed at the 5 rays of light in the sky. Sky Rock Hand Dragon Lifting Technique. Xing Tian roared as the 5 palms shone brightly. They were like the hands of a giant grabbing forward. The surrounding people exclaimed, because these palms were too terrifying. In the distance, the longbow monarch sneered. You want to catch my 7 gods archery technique with your bare hands? You're overestimating yourself. Just wait, you'll be pierced through soon. Boom, 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 boom. 5 rays of light flashed and danced in the air like 5 flood dragons. They emitted a monstrous aura. However, the 5 palms mercilessly grabbed at the 5 dragon-like rays of light. Boom, boom. The two collided, and an earth-shattering explosion of energy erupted. What? Caught? The surrounding experts were shocked and didn't dare to believe it. The longbow monarch's eyelids twitched, and his eyeballs almost popped out, because he realized that the 5 rays of light in front of him were firmly caught by the 5 palms. At this moment, the 5 palms looked very strange. They didn't look like the palms of a human, but the claws of a demonic beast. Blotting out the sky and covering the earth, they descended from the void and grabbed the 5 streaks of arrow light. It was as if they had caught the weak spot of a snake. They were abnormally sharp and decisive. The 5 rays of light couldn't resist at all. Chapter 2438. The Longbow King's mind went blank. Heavens, how is this possible? His 7 gods archery technique was a heaven-grade archery technique. Its power was incomparably terrifying. If the 5 arrows shot out at the same time, they would be able to kill a peerless powerhouse of the same level. However, they could not do anything to the other party. In fact, they did not even cause any damage to the other party. Instead, the other party grabbed them tightly. Look, doesn't that palm look like the palm of the legendary Sky Rock? An old man asked in a low voice. The others looked over carefully, and then they were extremely shocked. Indeed, the claw looked too strange. It looked like the claw of a demonic beast. Upon closer inspection, it did look very similar to the legendary Sky Rock. The Sky Rock was one of the peerless beasts of ancient times. It was extremely terrifying. Legend had it that it fed on dragons. No one had truly seen it before. However, the Sky Rock dragon technique was passed down. It was said that the golden rocks were the descendants of the Sky Rock. They knew the Sky Rock dragon technique and could kill flood dragons. Moreover, there were also peerless figures in the human race who created a terrifying technique based on the Sky Rock dragon technique. It was probably that guy who used the Sky Rock hand and the Sky Rock dragon technique. No wonder it was so terrifying. Everyone was shocked. Indeed, the Heavenly Rock's dragon unleashing technique could even kill a flood dragon, let alone 7 arrows. Were the people from Immortal Palace all so terrifying? They actually knew such a terrifying divine ability. These people were shocked. The Longbow King's expression was extremely gloomy. He did not expect the other party to break through his 7 gods archery technique. Damn it! A hint of madness appeared in his eyes. Humph! It's not over yet. Go to hell! He roared angrily with a sinister expression. When the surrounding people saw this scene, their expressions changed drastically. Oh no, he's crazy. These people fled one after another, because they had already guessed what the Longbow King was going to do. In the next moment, the Longbow King exploded the 5 arrows in a frenzy. The 5 arrows were extremely terrifying. When they exploded together, they could definitely destroy everything. As expected, violent energy instantly enveloped the entire space. The sky shook and the earth shook. This attack could definitely destroy the surrounding hundreds of thousands of miles. However, this was the ancient tomb of a saint. At this moment, wisps of the saints will appeared in the ancient tomb, suppressing the entire world. That was why the saint's ancient tomb was not destroyed. However, the space in the cave kept shattering. The others no longer dared to snatch the black worms, and fled one after another. Longbow King quickly retreated into the tunnel behind him. Xing Tian, on the other hand, was completely engulfed by the violent energy. Humph! Let's see how you die this time. In the tunnel, Longbow King's expression was ferocious. Even though his opponent had broken through his seven gods archery technique, the final victor would still be him. No matter how strong the other party was, it was impossible for them to withstand such a terrifying explosion. The experts from the other holy lands and great sects left one after another. This explosion was too terrifying. It would take a while for the energy to dissipate. There was no need for them to stay here. Therefore, they all set off towards the front. After flying for a while, a spacious hall appeared. This hall was very big and incomparably tall. The ceiling above was filled with a starry sky map. It was mysterious and unfathomable, as if it was a real starry sky. At this moment, many people had gathered in the main hall. However, it didn't seem crowded, because the palace was too big. At this moment, all the major forces had set up camp. However, they were not in a hurry to set off. Instead, they were resting and recovering their strength. Although they had only passed through 2 caves, it was extremely dangerous. The battle was very intense. Many holy lands and great sects had lost their disciples. Even the saints and elders had expended too much of their energy. Therefore, they were all recovering at this moment. Lin Xian and the others naturally took up a spot as well. When Lin Xian arrived, many people looked over. Among them, the people from Tai Dynasty were shocked. Damn it, what's going on? Why is that kid here? Did Longbow King fail? They were puzzled. They had already sent Longbow King to hide in the dark and assassinate him. With Longbow King's unparalleled archery technique, it should have been easy for him to kill the other party. But why did he fail? They couldn't figure it out. Longbow King hadn't returned yet. The others also looked over. When they saw Lin Xian's pale face, they were also puzzled. What's wrong with that kid? Is he injured? That's not right. I didn't see him attack earlier. These people were also puzzled. Among them, the 5 Elements Saint, Jiuxiao Seiko, Thousand Thunder Saint, and the others looked over with cold eyes. It's better if that kid dies. They didn't know what kind of injury Lin Xian had suffered, but seeing how weak he was now, they gloated. If he couldn't recover, they would find a chance to kill him later. Morong Qingqing naturally saw this scene. She hurried over and asked with concern, "Brother Xian, what's wrong?" When they left, Lin Xian was still fine. Why did he seem to be seriously ill in such a short period of time? I've exhausted my soul. Let me recover. Lin Xian's voice was weak. But fortunately, his soul had begun to recover. However, he couldn't use the heavenly secret divine eyes for a short period of time. Palace Master, Harry's a purple soul pill. It's used to recover soul power. Elder Wang walked over, took out a palm-sized jade gourd and poured out a pill. The pill was the size of a walnut. It was purple in color, and had golden pill patterns on it. The moment it appeared, waves of pill fragrance floated over. It attracted everyone's attention. Then, they all cried out in surprise. Heavens! That's a purple soul pill. It's a panacea for recovering soul power. I didn't expect them to have such a divine pill. These people were envious. Morong Qingqing also ran back, and asked for some panacea for one of their elders. Brother Xian, these are 2 drops of spirit congealing water. It's very beneficial for nourishing soul power. Spirit congealing water. Elder Li and the others were moved. They also knew that this was a type of sacred water from the Jade Lake. It was very precious, and not inferior to their purple soul pill. Lin Xian took it and swallowed it. Chapter 2439. They had also realized that Lin Xian's strength was not simple. He was very mysterious. His swordsmanship had moved them. They had also heard of the immortal palace behind him, and knew that it was an organization that was not weaker than the sacred ground. Therefore, it was very beneficial for them to be on good terms with him, especially now that they were in the saint's tomb. It was safer to work together. Lin Xian's complexion had become much rosier after consuming the 2 divine medicines and divine waters. He heaved a sigh of relief, then squinted his eyes and asked, "Why isn't Xing Tian back yet? Is he all right?" "Don't worry, Palace Master. Xing Tian is definitely fine. Elder Li and the others said with a smile. They were very clear about Xing Tian's strength. He was a terrifying existence. Lin Xian also nodded. Since the old palace master had asked Xing Tian to protect him, it meant that Xing Tian's strength was definitely recognized by the old palace master. Thinking of this, he was no longer worried. Instead, he looked around. Sensing Lin Xian's gaze, the five elements saint and the others snorted coldly. The other saint's eyes also flickered. However, at that moment someone exclaimed, "Damn it! What happened?" Everyone turned their heads to look. They saw a gourd in the old man's arms suddenly crack open, and black worms crawled out. How is that possible? They came out again. Damn it! The old man was furious. The gourd was his secret treasure. How could it not trap the black worms? Oh no, it's the will of a saint. In the next moment, his face changed because the worms were emitting the will of a saint. Although it was very weak, it was enough to make them shudder. Ka. Not only the old man, but the five elements sect, 9 heavens sacred ground, for symbols sacred ground, and a large family behind him. The black worms that they had captured had all broken the seal and crawled out. Each worm carried the will of a saint. They crawled toward the cave as if they were being summoned. Damn it, how could this be? The people from the 5 elements sacred ground and thousand thunder sacred ground gritted their teeth in anger. Buzz! The wavering light sacred ground's saint suddenly frowned. The dragon pattern cauldron replica suddenly floated above and trembled slightly. Obviously, the black worms inside were resisting. A sage's will was emitted. The Yao Guang saint shouted angrily. He kept slapping the dragon pattern tripod. The 2 dragons on the replica dragon pattern cauldron seemed to come alive. They emitted a powerful aura and sealed the replica dragon pattern cauldron completely. Suppress! The Yao Guang saint shouted coldly, and the dragon pattern tripod returned to his body. Whoosh! Seeing this, the people of the Yao Guang sacred land heaved a sigh of relief. However, Leaf Daudinier managed to rise to his feet, his energy and blood surging. Golden light shone in all directions. It was unknown what method was used, but the consciousness of those sages disappeared. On the other side, Morong Qingqing also had a solemn expression on her face. Clearly, her lotus vase had also suffered from the impact of the saint's will. Fortunately, the lotus vase was an extremely terrifying magic treasure. At this moment, Morong Qingqing quickly formed hand seals to activate the lotus vase. The lotus flower was the weak will of a saint. In the end, she also destroyed a trace of the saint's will. Other than them, the other holy lands were not so lucky. The bugs broke out of the seal and flew off into the distance. Angry roars could be heard one after another. Among them, the Grand Xia dynasty used a secret technique to seal the saint again. Other than that, a few holy monks from the western desert took out a purple alms bowl and sealed it again. In the Nanling Mountains, a few people in black robes held a black jar. The black bugs inside did not come out either. However, there were less than 2 people who could seal the bugs. The other great sects of the Holy Lands really didn't have this kind of sealing treasure. Some chose not to make a move, as if they were hiding their trump cards. After all, they had only been through 2 caves. Some people did not want to reveal their trump cards too early. Therefore, the black insects they obtained all flew back to them. On Lin Xian's side, Elderly frowned, because he realized that the bugs he sealed were starting to fight back. The saints will rushed out again. What should we do, Hall Master? Elderly looked at Lin Xian. Lin Xian's eyes flashed. Then he said in a low voice, "Let them go." He also understood that the people who suppressed the bugs were Holy Land's aristocratic families, with extreme-grade weapons. The weapons they used to suppress the black bugs were all imitations of extreme-grade weapons. Its power was unpredictable. Only then could they eliminate the saint's will. Some of the other Holy Land's aristocratic families did not have such weapons, and some did not take them out. Therefore, those people did not keep the bugs. The Immortal Palace probably also had such a heaven-defying forbidden weapon that could suppress the bugs. However, Lin Xian did not plan to take it out. Firstly, he did not want to attract the attention of these people and expose his trump cards too early. Secondly, he had successfully tamed 100 bugs. This number added up to more than the Light Shaking clan and the Yi clan combined. Therefore, he felt that it was about time. There was no need to expose his trump cards for these 20 to 30 bugs. Elder Li and the others naturally understood this logic. Thus, they waved their hands and released the black bugs. Sure enough, when they saw the black bugs crawling out from Lin Xian's side, the other Holy Land's aristocratic families secretly heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that the Immortal Palace was not as terrifying as they had imagined. The 5 Elements Saint, the 10,000 Thunder Saint, and the others also snorted coldly, feeling much better. However, these people did not know that Lin Xian now had 100 black bugs in his hands. The number was more terrifying than the 5 top Holy Lands combined. Moreover, these 100 black bugs had completely obliterated the saint's will. It could be said that they were very safe. If these people knew about this, they would probably vomit blood. Just as everyone was feeling annoyed and jealous about what had happened before, a series of footsteps suddenly sounded in front of them. When they heard this sound, they looked up. Their eyes were like divine red as they locked onto the void in front of them. They had stopped in this hall for 2 reasons. Firstly, they needed to rest and recuperate. Secondly, they needed to think about their next path. This was because there was not only one path that extended from this hall, but 3 paths. These 3 paths were exactly the same. Chapter 2440. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes and looked into the distance. His soul power had not fully recovered, so he could not activate his heavenly secret divine eyes easily. Therefore, he could not see clearly what was inside. However, he was not anxious because he could hear the footsteps getting closer and closer. It was obvious that someone was coming out from inside. Indeed, before long, countless lights shone from the left of the 3 passageways in front of him. Then a group of people walked out. The first person was a girl. Her big black eyes were like crescent moons, and she looked very sweet. There were many young people and elders behind her. Obviously, this was a very large organization. Wuxia Holy Land. Why did they go in early? Someone immediately exclaimed, because they recognized the identity of these people. Lin Xian was also very surprised after hearing this. Whoosh! He also stood up and looked carefully. Wuxia Holy Land. Wasn't this the Holy Land that Shen Jingqiu went to? Morong Qingqing was also surprised. She pulled Lin Xian and said, "Look, isn't that Qiu'er?" Indeed, the cute girl at the front was Shen Jingqiu. She was taller than before, and her face was more beautiful. The aura on her body was also unusually strong. Shen Jingqiu came out and felt the gazes of countless people. She snorted softly and ignored them. The martial artists of Wuxia Holy Land behind her were indeed a little nervous. They did not expect so many people to come to this hall. What were these people doing? Why didn't they find a passageway to go in? When did they go in? The elders of Wavering Light Holy Land were puzzled. The people of Yi family were also asking. The people of the various families in Great Sage Land were all discussing. In an instant, all kinds of questions were asked. Suddenly, in the midst of everyone's confusion, hearty laughter was heard. Qiu'er, eh. Hearing this voice, Shen Jingqiu turned around. In the next moment she smiled, and her big eyes narrowed into crescents. Big brother Lin Xian. She turned into a bolt of lightning, and came in front of Lin Xian in an instant. Then, she threw herself into Lin Xian's arms. Great, I finally got to meet you. The little girl was so excited that she was about to cry. Everyone around was stunned. They looked at this scene, and their minds went blank. They couldn't believe it. The people of the Purple Afterglow Holy Land were also dumbfounded, as if they had seen a ghost. Firmament? What happened? The holy daughter of the Purple Afterglow Holy Land actually threw herself into someone else's arms? Who was it? They didn't know who had such great charm. However, when they saw Lin Xian, they all gritted their teeth. Damn it, it's this brat again. How could it be him again? Didn't this guy have a good relationship with the saintess of the medicinal herb sect? Why was he able to woo the holy maiden of the Purple Dawn Holy Land? Heavens, who can tell me what's going on? Strike me with a bolt of lightning. Wails of anguish rang out one after another. The people of the Wuxia Holy Land were also stunned. The faces of the people from the Jade Lake sacred ground also darkened. This brat was too fickle in love. Damn it, I knew that this brat wasn't anything good. In the Jade Lake sacred ground, Zhaozhirua gnashed her teeth in anger. In this world, it was very normal to want to have multiple wives and concubines. Not to mention having multiple wives and concubines. Even having a harem of 3,000 was not a problem. However, have you ever seen someone who could flirt with 3,000 saintesses? That was simply impossible. There was no difference between having 2 and having 3,000. Every saintess was extremely proud and confident, who would allow themselves to share a man with others. But now such a thing had actually happened. Heavens, what kind of magic does this brat have? Hee. I guess he must have deliberately concealed it, and flirted with the Jade Lake Saintess and Purple Afterglow Holy Daughter separately. Now this brat has exposed himself. Just wait, the Jade Lake Saintess will definitely be furious. There will probably be a great battle, and this brat might be killed. Some people gloated, while others sneered. They guessed that it must be like this. The Jade Lake Saintess must not know about this matter. They were looking forward to the upcoming battle. But soon they were dumbfounded. In fact, their eyeballs almost popped out, because they saw that Morong Qingqing was smiling. She didn't look angry at all. Heavens, could it be that the Jade Lake Saintess already knew about this matter? That was impossible. The Jade Lake Saintess was an incomparably proud person. She even looked down on the other saintesses. How could she allow this brat to have a foot in both boats? Even if the Jade Lake Saintess was willing, then Purple Afterglow was also willing? They didn't believe it. Alright, aren't we meeting now? In front, Lin Xian said with a smile. Hearing this, Shen Jingqiu stood up from Lin Xian's embrace. Her little face was red, and she was very shy. Big sister Qingqing, you're also here. I missed you so much, Shen Jingqiu said as she held Morong Qingqing's hand. This scene was like a clap of thunder that made everyone dizzy. Oh my heavens! What was this situation? Why were the two of them so close? Could it be that 2 women were really going to share a man? But damn, these were 2 saintesses. They had never seen such a thing. It had to be known that these holy lands and large sects had existed for many years, and had produced many saintesses. But they had never heard of 2 saintesses falling in love with the same person at the same time. Except for that peerless demon who made the flower protector, and snatched more than a dozen saintesses at once to become his harem. But he was forced to do it forcefully, and those saintesses didn't obediently agree. So, they really hadn't seen a scene like this before. Damn, who the hell was this brat? What kind of charm did he have? How could he do this? These people were all crazy. The people of the Jade Lake Holy Land and Purple Afterglow Holy Land were also stunned. They were so shocked that they couldn't speak. Behind them, the people of the Immortal Palace also widened their eyes. Damn. As expected of the palace master, he's really strong. I admire this method. This was what everyone thought. But at this time, an angry roar came from the distance. Damn brat, let go of our saintess. This angry roar came from none other than the Purple Afterglow Holy Land. The people of the Purple Afterglow Holy Land were stunned, especially the male disciples. They were all gnashing their teeth, and their eyes were filled with killing intent. One of them, a tall man, looked in the direction of Lin Xian and shouted loudly. Seeing that someone had taken the lead, the other disciples of the Purple Afterglow Holy Land also roared. Hearing that, Hu Yidio's body swayed and he stood out. Go to hell. The young man's face darkened. Lin Xian did not want to fight with him. Was he looking down on him? Roar. He roared angrily, and a terrifying aura surged out from his body. He struck out with his palm. In the sky, a large purple palm appeared and quickly descended. The terrifying aura made people tremble, and the entire void split open. Humph! Looking at this scene, Hu Yidao was expressionless. When the large purple palm approached, he pulled out the full moon scimitar from his waist. Buzz! Buzz! 2 crescent-shaped saber lights flew out. One of them slashed on the large purple palm, making a thunderous sound. The space between heaven and earth shattered. The large purple palm was split open by the saber. Whoosh! The second slash sent the young man flying. What? How could he be so powerful? The young martial artist from the Purple Dawn Holy Land narrowed his eyes. He did not expect his attack to be split open by the other party. And now, he was in danger of being killed. Ah! He roared angrily. The purple chi around his body surged and formed a purple shield in front of him. Bang! A low sound was heard. The purple shield shattered into pieces. The young martial artist spat out blood and flew backward. Seeing this scene, the surrounding people were in an uproar. Especially those from the Purple Dawn Holy Land. Their faces darkened. Who is this person? What a terrifying saber technique! Bailey, he also roared angrily. Damn it, who are you? He did not expect that the other party would have such a powerful saber king by his side. Immortal Palace Hui Dao. Hui Dao stood proudly. His expression became extremely gloomy. How dare you be rude to the master of Immortal Palace? Kneel down and accept your death. His voice was like thunder, exploding in all directions. You're courting death. Bailey, he was also angry. How dare he ask him to kneel down and accept his death? No one in the younger generation dared to say that. He took a step forward, and the aura on his body suddenly erupted. Not only that, but a few powerful young martial artists also came out from behind him. Their eyes were cold. On the opposite side, Hui Dao sneered. Behind him, Ghostly and Peacock also walked up. The 100 elite martial artists were all overflowing with murderous aura, forming a terrifying pressure. This scene shocked everyone. Many people swallowed their saliva. Bailey, he was also stunned. How could the other party have so many experts? He did not dare to make a move. Although he was powerful, the three people in front of him each had a terrifying aura. They were not weaker than him. Moreover, there were more than 100 elites behind them. Who was this kid? What was Immortal Palace? Why had he never heard of it? In his opinion, he did not think that Immortal Palace was some kind of Holy Land level existence. Because such an existence was known in the world. No one did not know. Chapter 2442. Could it be that Immortal Palace? Had they appeared? The elders of the Purple Cloud Holy Land were shocked. That was because they had heard some legends about Immortal Palace. Although it was very vague, and there was very little information, without exception, it proved that it was an existence that was not weaker than a peerless Holy Land. Moreover, it had a long history and was very terrifying. If it was really that Immortal Palace, then they could not easily start a war with them. Because if they did not handle it well, it would be a war between the two Holy Lands. They could not bear the consequences of that. Moreover, it was not a wise choice to provoke such a terrifying force for no reason. More importantly, their saintess had a very good relationship with the Immortal Palace Master. Thus, when they thought of this, the elders immediately came to a decision. An old woman shouted in a deep voice, "Stop! What are you doing? Are you rebelling?" Hearing that, the young male warriors of the Purple Cloud Holy Land trembled, and a trace of shock appeared in their eyes. Their elders had actually stopped them. What was going on? Could it be that their elders were afraid? Or was there another reason? They could not understand. Bailey, his expression was also ugly. He said, "Elders, they are too arrogant." Shut up. The elders' faces also darkened. Although Bailey, his identity was special, they could not allow him to be presumptuous. After all, no matter how powerful Bailey he was only a young figure. These elders would not give him face. Bailey, he was so angry that he vomited blood. But there was nothing he could do. Indeed, he was arrogant. But that was only in front of the younger generation. Towards these elders, he was still respectful and reverent. He had no choice but to grit his teeth and stand back. However, his eyes were incomparably cold as he stared at Lin Xian. He swore that as long as there was a chance, he would definitely kill this kid secretly. However, the elders of the Purple Cloud Holy Land stood out. They walked forward and looked at Lin Xian. "Are you really the Immortal Palace Master?" "Yes, I am." Lin Xian nodded. He was not particularly arrogant. Of course, he was not overly modest either. His current status was even higher than these elders. "Granny Qian, he is the big brother Lin Xian that I mentioned," Shen Jingqiu said from the side. "So it's Palace Master Lin." Elder Qian was too polite. Ling Xian smiled. Seeing this scene, the cultivators from the Purple Afterglow Holy Land were shocked. They widened their eyes in disbelief. Their elder was actually so courteous to a brat? This made them look like they had seen a ghost. Even Bailey, his face was gloomy. He was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. At the front, Elder Li and the others also stepped forward. They looked at Granny Gon and asked in confusion, "Fellow Taoist, what did you find in the tunnel? What were the mysteries behind these 3 paths?" Hearing this, everyone pricked up their ears and listened carefully, because they also wanted to know what these 3 paths were. Elder Qian said, "We only entered the leftmost path and turned back after walking halfway. Because there was a powerful formation mechanism. With just our family's power, it's very difficult to contend against them. That's why we've come back to prepare for an alliance. As for the other 2 paths, we don't know. But come to think of it, it should be about the same." Hearing this, everyone's expression turned solemn. They knew how powerful the purple afterglow Holy Land was. A formation that even they couldn't contend against must be especially terrifying. Therefore, for a moment, everyone was discussing countermeasures. Which path should they choose? Should they gather their strength and take 1 path? Or should they split their strength and take 3 paths? "Big brother Lin Xian, which path should you take?" "Chiao wants to go with you." Shen Jingqiu looked up and asked. She had just seen Lin Xian. How could she bear to leave? Morong Qingcheng, who was at the side, was also waiting. Lin Xian was smiling. He hadn't decided yet because Elder Li and the others were still discussing. "Elder Li, if we split into 3 teams and encounter special dangers, can we resist them?" Lin Xian asked. "No problem. We all have secret treasures on us. And I also think that we should split into 3 teams. After all, no one knows where these 3 paths will lead to, but I'm sure that 1 path is correct. Therefore, if we split into 3 teams, our chances of winning will be greatly increased. Alright, let's split into 3 teams. We'll do it as before. Elder Li will take the middle team. Elder Wang and Elder Lu, you'll take the left and right teams respectively." Yes. The 3 elders agreed. Shen Jingqiu also cheered. "Alright, I'll take the middle path with big brother Lin Xian. Sister Qingcheng, why don't you come with us?" She grabbed Morong Qingcheng's hand. "Okay." Morong Qingcheng was shocked. 2 peerless beauties, 2 saintesses, snuggled up to Lin Xian, and were so obedient. This scene made many people jealous. Even the saintesses and princes were envious. However, at this moment, Bailey he spoke again. "Saintess, no, what ability does that kid have to protect you? It's too dangerous for you there. You should take the left path with us. With me here, I'll definitely protect you." The elders of the Purple Dawn Sacred Land didn't say anything, because Bailey he still said what they thought. Shen Jingqiu was their saintess. They were indeed worried about letting their saintess go with someone else. After all, the death of a saintess was a serious matter. Even if she was injured, they couldn't bear it. "How dare you question Immortal Palace?" Hui Dao and the others snorted coldly, and were about to refute. At this moment, the sound of footsteps came from the passage in front of them again. The footsteps were abnormally heavy. The others turned their heads, one after another, with puzzled expressions. "Someone else is coming. Who is it? Isn't the majority of the troops already here?" They looked over in confusion. Soon, a huge figure appeared in the passage in front of them. His black hair fluttered in the wind, and his figure was tall like a god of war. His body was covered in blood. At this moment, his killing intent was still surging, shattering the void. This scene was really shocking. Who is this person? How terrifying. Seeing this scene, many people cried out in surprise. Isn't he the person beside that kid from Immortal Palace? Why did he come so late? What did he do earlier? Everyone was puzzled. They naturally recognized that the other party was one of Lin Xian's guards. Look, he's holding a head in his hand. It seems that he must have gone through a great battle earlier. Who did he fight? Chapter 2443. That was because Xing Tian turned around and threw the black object in his hand. The object streaked across the sky and landed in front of the Tai dynasty. A head. Everyone saw clearly that this thing was actually a human head. Throwing a head at the Tai dynasty? What was going on? Was there hatred between the 2 sides? They didn't know, but they knew that a good show was coming. The 5 Elements Saint Sun, the 10,000 Thunder Saint Sun, and the others sneered. They felt that Immortal Palace was too arrogant. Not only did they offend them, they even dared to offend the Tai dynasty. One had to know that this was the central state. Although they were in the Great Xia dynasty, it was easy for the Tai dynasty to send an army here. Weren't these people from Immortal Palace afraid that they wouldn't be able to leave? What a reckless guy. The 5 Elements Saint Sun sneered. The 10,000 Thunder Saint Sun also snorted. How could a mere head scare the people from the Tai dynasty? What a joke. The others had the same thought, but they were soon stunned. To be honest, the people from the Tai dynasty were also stunned. When they saw Lin Xian return safely, they were puzzled. What was the Longbow King doing? Now that they saw the other party throwing a head at them, the people from the Tai dynasty were furious. The other party dared to provoke them in public? Did they really think that they wouldn't dare to fight? However, when they saw the head on the ground, their bodies stiffened as if they were struck by lightning. Everyone's eyelids twitched wildly, and a chill rose from the bottom of their hearts. That was the Longbow King's head. Damn it, how is that possible? The people from the Tai dynasty went crazy. The Longbow King was killed, and his head was cut off. They couldn't believe it. Naturally, the others also noticed this scene, and they all screamed, their faces full of shock. That was the Longbow King's head. Heavens, the Longbow King was killed. You mean the famous Longbow King of the Central State, the Longbow King? That's right, other than him, who else could it be? Exclamations came one after another. When the people from the Purple Dawn Holy Land heard it, they also gasped. Especially the young warriors, their scalps went numb. That was at least at the almighty level, and a terrifying one at that. His archery skills were strong, but he was easily killed by the other party. Thinking of this, their bodies trembled. Before this, they actually dared to go against such a terrifying person? Wasn't this courting death? Bailey's expression was extremely ugly. Damn brat, you actually dared to kill Longbow King. You're courting death. The people from the Tai dynasty were furious. This time, they were all on the First Prince's and the Empress side. Therefore, it was natural for them to oppose each other. After Lin Xian heard this, he sneered. What? You can send people to assassinate me, but I can't kill your people? This is just a warning. If there is a next time, don't blame me for killing all of you and the First Prince. At this point, a cold killing intent surfaced in Lin Xian's eyes. The hearts of the people around were beating wildly. The young martial artists shrank their necks. The people of the Tai dynasty had ugly looks on their faces. The other party was too domineering and arrogant. However, the other party was so powerful. They sent Longbow King, because he was a long-range attacker. Even if he was surrounded, he could easily escape. But now the other party was killed. Moreover, he was not killed by the other party. It seemed that he was killed in a one-on-one duel. This made the situation serious. They looked at Xing Tian with a hint of fear in their eyes. Needless to say, this was definitely a terrifying and peerless expert. Humph. Just you wait, this matter is not over. The people of the Tai dynasty gritted their teeth. They were incomparably cold, but they did not attack immediately. Seeing this scene, the surrounding people were even more shocked. The other party had already thrown the head in front of the Tai dynasty. This was a blatant slap in the face. With the strength of the Tai dynasty, they would definitely counterattack immediately. Because no dynasty would tolerate such a slap in the face. However, the Tai dynasty tolerated it, and did not attack immediately. What did this mean? This meant that the Tai dynasty was afraid of the other party. For a moment, everyone looked at Lin Xian and the other members of Immortal Palace with a hint of fear in their hearts. The young martial artists of the Purple Dawn Holy Land gasped. They decided not to challenge the other party to a duel anymore. Of course, except for a few people like Bailey, the 5 Elements Saint, the 10,000 Thunder Saint, the Tuoba family, and the others looked gloomy. They felt that they had to find a way to kill the other party. Otherwise, if the other party continued to grow, he would definitely become an unimaginable enemy. The death of the Longbow King caused a huge commotion. Everyone was shocked. It was not until a long time later that everyone came to their senses. Not long after, the Yi family and the Wavering Light Sacred Land prepared to take action and entered the 3 tunnels ahead. Among them, Immortal Palace was divided into 3 teams. Lin Xian and the others were going to take the middle tunnel. In addition to the members of Immortal Palace, Morong Qingqing and Shun Jingxia were also following Lin Xian. Previously, the people of the Purple Dawn Holy Land and the Jade Lake Sacred Land were still worried. However, after the Longbow King was killed, they tacitly agreed. They would let the two saintesses stay with Lin Xian for a while. After going through the 3 tunnels, they would bring the saintesses back. The other sacred lands, great sects and royal families also sent out teams. Most of them chose to take the form of 3 teams. After all, they did not want to miss any of the tunnels. Of course, there were a few extreme people who chose to take one of the tunnels. This was because their strength was relatively weaker. If they split up again, they might not have a chance at all. Let's go. Everyone moved and walked toward the 3 tunnels ahead. At the same time, in the second cave behind them, Yen Ryu and the others from Demon Imperial Palace appeared again. They wondered what would happen in the second trial. The martial artists from Demon Imperial Palace were excited, but when they arrived, their expressions changed. From all directions, from the sky to the ground, there were black bugs everywhere, pouncing toward them. Get lost! An expert from Demon Imperial Palace roared. He stretched out his palm, which was covered in scales, and sent a group of bugs flying with a slap. How dare mere bugs block the path of our Demon Imperial Palace? This person snorted disdainfully. Chapter 2444. Damn it! Get lost! They roared angrily, and a majestic power rushed out of their bodies. Some of them even attacked crazily. However, although they could block the attacks, they could not hurt those insects at all. How could this be? Hua Tiandu and Yen Ryu both frowned. Damn it! An old man cried out in alarm. This old man was very strange. He had 2 antlers on his head that were covered with mysterious runes. At this moment he exclaimed, "Those don't seem to be insects. They're not insects. Then what are they?" Yen Ryu was puzzled. The old man with antlers became excited. Puppets. Those are mechanical puppets. Moreover, they're made of dark demonic gold. Oh my god, we're rich. What? Dark demonic gold? Is it a material to make a heaven-grade treasure? The people of the Demon King Palace were all excited. On the other side, an old man with a python tail shook his head. Don't be careless. If there's really such a good treasure, the humans won't leave it behind. They'll definitely take it away. There are traps, dangers, or mechanisms here that we don't know about. Everyone be careful here. As soon as he said that, everyone nodded in agreement and became careful. Indeed, in their opinion, the humans were very greedy and would not give up such a treasure. Roar! Boom! Suddenly, an angry roar came from the front. Then the black dragon turtle walked out again. It was like a small black mountain, and it had an aura that made people tremble. What's that? Yen Ryu and the others were shocked. Could it be that it's also caused by dark demonic gold? Thinking of that, they gasped, and their eyes turned red. Go! Under Hua Tiandu's order, a burly man walked forward. That man was also a half-demon with green scales on his body. At this moment, his claw was like a beast's claw that descended from the sky. It was like a green mountain that pressed down from the sky. Bang! The large green palm directly slapped the black dragon turtle, causing an intense collision. However, the half-demon man was the one who screamed in pain. His palm was directly pierced through. Blood dyed the sky red. What? The dragon turtle is so powerful. The people of the Demon King Palace were shocked. Whoosh! Boom boom boom! In the sky, a black shadow flashed, and the burly man was sent flying. Damn it, let's attack together. Hua Tiandu's face sank. The experts of the Demon Imperial Palace all made their moves, preparing to subdue the dragon turtle. The others dealt with the bugs. Although the black dragon turtle and the insect were powerful, they were still suppressed by the many experts of the Demon King Palace. He was about to be subdued. However, at this moment of crisis, a majestic force rushed out of their bodies and swept out in all directions. This force caused everyone to fly backwards. At this moment, those elders, Hua Tiandu and Yen Ryu, all felt enormous pressure. Their faces were pale, and their eyes were filled with fear. The will of the sage. This was actually the will of a saint. No wonder. At this moment, they understood why the humans gave up on these treasures. This was the will of a saint. It was hard to get rid of it. Keeping it by his side was like a ticking time bomb. Who knew when it would erupt? Saint, should we use that? The elder with antlers asked. Hua Tianda's face darkened as he nodded his head. Ha! He snorted coldly, and countless runes appeared on his forehead. Those runes all rose into the air, and turned into a mysterious bell, pressing down from the sky. The Demon Emperor Bell was an extremely terrifying weapon. Of course, it was not the real Demon Emperor Bell, but a defensive product. However, its power was also unparalleled. In an instant it suppressed 30 black bugs, captured them, and completely sealed them. As for the rest, they were powerless now. The people of the Demon Imperial Palace had no choice. But Yen Rui's red lips opened again. The green light swept through the area, and instantly captured 30 black bugs, sealing them completely. Then they were put into a box. When the green light appeared, these people were all terrified. Even the replica Demon Emperor Bell trembled slightly. Let's go. Yen Rui retracted the green light, and said indifferently. These people of the Demon Imperial Palace left again, and set off forward. Finally, they arrived at the main hall. Looking at the 3 passageways in front of them, these people narrowed their eyes. There are actually 3 passageways. Which one should we take? These people began to discuss. They came to the 3 entrances and observed carefully. At each of these 3 entrances, there was a large amount of aura left behind. Obviously, those humans had all entered. 2 choices. Split into 3 groups and enter separately, or choose one of them. Everyone pondered. Yen Ryu formed a seal with her fingers, and a light appeared in her eyes as she swept across the 3 passageways. Hee. The corner of her mouth raised into a smile. No matter what, I must take the middle path. Is there a reason? The elders of the Demon Imperial Palace asked. They did not find anything special. The corner of Yen Rui's mouth raised. There is no special reason. I just like the middle path. Hearing this, the elders' mouths twitched and they rolled their eyes. However, they did not dare to say anything. Although Yen Rui was not a member of the Demon Imperial Palace, her identity was too special. They did not dare to provoke her. They had to treat her like how they treated the saints and saintesses. Alright, since Ryu said so, then we will take the middle path. Hua Tiandu waved his hand. They set off towards the middle path. Of course, they also sent a small number of people to the other 2 paths secretly. Lin Xian and the others walked into the middle path of the 3 paths. They were wearing battle armors that shone brightly. Most of them did not activate their king's domain. After all, it consumed too much spiritual power. Moreover, no one knew when there would be a big battle. Therefore, they usually wore battle armors and released their light. Logically speaking, with so many of them, the light from each of them should be like the sun, illuminating an area. However, they could not do so in this passage. They could only illuminate an area of 1 or 2 meters around them. In the distance, it was dark as if there was a mysterious force suppressing them. The ancient tomb of a saint definitely had the means of a saint. It was not something that they could imagine. Therefore, Lin Xian and the others advanced carefully. On the right, Morong Qingqing held his arm. On the left, Shen Jingxiu held his hand. The 3 of them walked in front. Behind them, Elder Li, Xing Tian, and the others followed. There were other sacred grounds in front of them, and there were also peerless sects behind them. Chapter 2445. Could there be something even more terrifying waiting for them ahead? They did not know. But after going through the previous 2 caves, they knew that there was more to this place than met the eye. Whoever dared to underestimate the tomb of a saint would have to face the end of their road. Ah, damn it! What was going on? At this moment, a furious roar came from behind. Hearing this voice, everyone stopped in their tracks. Everyone be careful, Xing Tian said in a deep voice. The energy in their bodies was circulating rapidly, ready to explode at any moment. Lin Xian frowned. Shen Jingxiu and Morong Qingqing also turned around. What happened? An elder from the Great Xia dynasty asked. They realized that the person who screamed was from one of the clans in the Great Xia dynasty, Shui clan. Although they were strong, they were still lacking compared to the Great Xia dynasty and the Great Xia dynasty. We seem to have been ambushed. We are missing one person. The elder from the Shui clan replied. Missing one person? Hearing this, the The surrounding cultivators from the Great Xia dynasty frowned. Among them, a cultivator from the Nine Heavens holy ground sneered. What a bunch of trash. You don't even know that you were assassinated. What did you say? The elder from the Shui clan was furious. They were already pissed that they were missing one person. Now someone dared to mock them? Why? Are you not convinced that you are trash? The cultivator from the Nine Heavens holy ground sneered. They were not afraid of the Shui clan at all. Seeing that it was the Nine Heavens holy ground, the Shui clan gritted their teeth in anger. However, they had no choice. They could not defeat the other party. Hence, they could only look gloomy. The elder from the Great Xia dynasty said in a deep voice, "Be careful. Don't get ambushed again." After all, the Nine Heavens holy ground belonged to the Great Xia dynasty. Although it had nothing to do with them, it was embarrassing for them to be killed for no reason. Yes, we know. The elder from the Shui clan had no choice. They did not even know who the murderer was. Hence, they could only grit their teeth and swallow their anger. The group was ready to move again. However, at this moment another scream was heard. Damn it! Wait, we are missing one person too. What? Hearing this, everyone was stunned. Which clan was it? The cultivator from the Nine Heavens holy ground sneered again. Let me see who is so stupid to be assassinated. You are courting death. Pung. A terrifying power surged forth, causing the entire space to shake. The few martial artists who had sneered retreated, vomiting blood. Their faces were filled with terror. The rest of the people from the Nine Heavens holy ground roared furiously. Who is it? Did he not want to live anymore? How dare you ambush us? Your Nine Heavens holy ground is too arrogant. An even gloomier voice sounded. People from the Four Symbols sacred grounds. Seeing those people, many people shrunk their necks and did not dare to speak again. This was because the Four Symbols holy lands were no weaker than the Nine Heavens holy lands. More importantly, Jiuxiao Seiko wasn't in this passageway, but the four sacred beasts were. Therefore, they did not dare to provoke him anymore. The Four Symbols holy grounds also had fewer people. The others did not even have the time to sneer or mock the Nine Heavens holy ground. Their brows furrowed even tighter. What's going on? If there was one less person in the Shui family, then they might have been assassinated. This was very normal. After all, the Shui family was not very strong. But now, the Four Symbols holy grounds actually had one less person. This was no ordinary matter. The Four Symbols holy grounds was a peerless holy ground that was incomparably terrifying. Moreover, the one leading the team was the four sacred beasts. There were also many elders who could kill under their noses. They did not dare to imagine. Even if the other holy grounds and sects could succeed, they couldn't have done it so quietly. Could it be that there was a terrifying and mysterious assassin among them? At that moment, the crowd thought of hell, world of man, and other terrifying assassin organizations. Everyone was in danger. These holy grounds and sects checked their own teams. Then one by one they exclaimed, "Damn it, why are we missing one?" So are we. The elders of the Great Xia dynasty had a gloomy look on their faces. Their eyes were red as they scanned the surroundings. Who is it? Get out here. They realized that their Great Xia dynasty had also lost one person. What's going on? Seeing this, Lin Xian's face also darkened. Elderly, check our people. Elder Li's gaze swept across and his face froze. One young master was missing. Who was missing? A young elite martial artist. Elderly said. They were all peerless almighties. They could tell at a glance how many strands of hair each person was missing. Therefore, they were naturally able to notice the obvious absence of one person at a glance. However, this made them even more shocked, because they did not realize it before. If the Shui family did not mention it, they would not even know that they were missing one person. Damn it, what's going on? Lin Xian's face darkened. Elder Li Xingtian and the rest frowned. The dark red divine dragon looked around. Beside him, Shen Jingqiu and Murong Qingqing were also dumbfounded. Could it be that the top assassins were on the move? Shen Jingqiu narrowed her eyes. She had heard that there was such a terrifying assassin as hell in this world. Could it be that they were here? It shouldn't be them. Lin Xian shook his head. Not only us, but all the holy grounds and sects in this tunnel were missing one person. No matter how terrifying the hell assassins were, They would not be able to do this. I guess it must be because of what happened in the tunnel. Damn it, we still fell into their trap. Lin Xian's face was gloomy. They had felt that something was amiss when they had been traveling peacefully earlier. How could the tomb of a sage be so safe? Now all the holy grounds and sects were missing one person. Moreover, it was done silently. This made their hair stand on end. For a moment, no one dared to move forward. Who knew if there would be people missing for no reason? Moreover, those missing people did not even have the chance to scream before they disappeared into thin air. This method was extremely strange. Everyone be careful. The elders of the great sage lands and sects reminded their subordinates. Then they continued on their journey. Lin Xian also gave Ruffian Dragon a few instructions. Ruffian Dragon, use the needle set. He did not activate the Dragon Sword domain, but he had the dark red Divine Dragon set up a defensive array. Light flashed, and the group set off again. Not long after they started walking, a gust of cold wind suddenly blew in front of them. Chapter 2446. Lin Xian frowned. At this moment, Shen Jingqiu exclaimed and pulled Lin Xian's hand. Brother Lin Xian, look. Lin Xian turned around and saw Shen Jingqiu pointing at the ground. He looked at the ground curiously. In the next moment his pupils shrank. In an instant, the dragon sword field expanded and enveloped all the members of the immortal palace. This scene made the people from the surrounding sacred grounds puzzled. What did this kid discover? Even Xing Tian, elderly, and the others were puzzled. However, when they looked at the ground, their pupils shrank, and a chill rose in their hearts. Damn it, what is this? They were too shocked, because they realized that there was something wrong with their shadows. Where there was light, there would be shadows. Normally, the shadows of ordinary people would be humanoid. Even if these people were the shadows of peerless powerhouses, they would not change. However, it was different now. The shadows under the feet of Lin Xian and the others had strange shapes, and were obviously demon-like existences. This was definitely not a human shadow. In fact, everyone suspected that it was not a shadow at all. There was a mysterious thing lurking under their feet. The people from the other sacred grounds, major sects, and royal families also looked down. One by one they exclaimed, "Damn it! What is this?" The people from the four symbols sacred grounds were even more decisive. The four symbols saint snorted and stomped his feet. It was as if an electric hammer had descended from the sky. The entire passageway trembled. If it was not the tomb of a saint, this stomp would have destroyed tens of thousands of miles of land. However, although it was the tomb of a saint, the space inside was instantly destroyed. Countless cracks spread in all directions. However, the four symbols saint did not feel happy at all. This was because he realized that the strange shadows did not receive any damage at all. Damn it, what is this thing? These people were shocked again. They realized that the strange shadows under their feet were moving together with them. It was as if they were really their shadows. However, how is this possible? Some of the shadows were clearly in the form of demonic beasts. Humph! The people from the Great Xia dynasty snorted, and the aura of the Tao of Dragons surged towards the terrifying shadows. Whoosh! The people from the Five Elements Palace spat out terrifying flames that enveloped those shadows. The people from the other sacred grounds and sects also made their moves. Lin Xian also coldly snorted. Countless sword chi slashed towards the strange shadow. The sword chi slashed the ground, creating a clanging sound. Even the void was shattered. After a series of explosions, the surrounding space boiled. When the light disappeared, they heaved a sigh of relief. They found that the strange shadow had disappeared. What was this thing? Were the people who went missing related to this thing? The martial artists of the Great Sage Land were discussing this matter. Lin Xian furrowed his brows and instructed, "All of you keep an eye on the surroundings. Don't get ambushed by these things again." Although they had chased away the freak's shadow, everyone's heart was heavy. They did not dare to be careless. Who knew what was waiting for them ahead? After walking for a while, he didn't find anything. The strange shadow on the ground didn't appear again. This allowed Lin Xian and the others to heave a sigh of relief. However, at this moment another scream came from behind. This scream was very terrifying. It sounded like the roar of a malicious spirit. Everyone's scalp went numb. Even Shen Jingqiu and Morong Qingqing's faces turned pale. The two of them were a little angry. Who was that? Why was it wailing like a ghost? Lin Xian turned back. Everyone turned back to look. In the next moment, they all frowned because they found that the scream was actually from the Shui family. What was going on this time? The elders of the Great Xia dynasty also frowned. The elders of the Shui family trembled, and their faces were full of fear. What was going on? This scene caused the surrounding people to be puzzled. Could it be that something terrifying had happened again? They looked around and found that everything was normal. There were no strange shadows on the ground at all. Those people were also not injured. Could it be that there was one less person? At the thought of this, they looked defeated and quickly counted their own people. When they did the inventory, everyone froze. A hint of fear appeared in their eyes. A chill rose in their hearts. These people were mighty figures and powerful kings. Some of them were even peerless mighty figures and peerless geniuses. However, at this moment, the chill in their hearts was spreading uncontrollably. Big brother Lin Xian, what happened? Shen Jingqiu and Morong Qingqing were the most surprised. Because the two of them did not bring any subordinates, they did not know what had happened in Lin Xian's immortal palace. Therefore, at this moment, the two of them were puzzled. However, the others were solemn. Lin Xian's expression was not good either. Xing Tian. The eyes of Elder Li and the others flickered. There was one more person. The dark red divine dragon swallowed his saliva. Although he was considered an old monster, he had never seen such a strange thing. He was scared. Damn it, why is there one more person? What? One more person? Hearing this, Shen Jingqiu and Morong Qingqing were also shocked. Morong Qingqing narrowed her eyes. She was a little worried about the people of the Jade Lake sacred ground. The people of the Jade Lake did not enter this passage. Instead, they entered the other two passages. But she did not know what strange thing had happened. It should not be too peaceful. Shen Jingqiu exclaimed and hugged Lin Xian tightly. The people of the other sacred ground sects and dynasties also had solemn expressions. They realized that the same thing had happened in their team. There was one more person. To be precise, there was not one more person. Wasn't there one less person before? Now their number had returned to its original number. The person who was missing had returned. What was going on? At this moment, countless gazes were like heavenly blades, staring at those figures. To be honest, these geniuses and elders of the sacred ground had never encountered such a thing. For a moment, they surrounded that person and asked carefully. On Lin Xian's side, Elder Li and the others also asked coldly, "Who are you? Are you a human or a ghost?" The young warrior who had disappeared and returned looked at the strange gazes around him and was stunned. "Elders, what's wrong with you? What did I do wrong?" He had a blank look on his face. "Humph." Xing Tian snorted coldly, still not telling the truth. "Speak. What are you?" Chapter 2447. Lin Xian, Morong Qingqing, and Shen Jingqiu were also puzzled. However, that youth felt very wronged. "I didn't leave at all. I've always been with you guys." He wasn't the only one. The other sacred grounds, great sects, and the disappeared cultivators also said the same thing. This made everyone extremely puzzled. They've always been together. But previously, they had clearly counted that one person was missing. These people couldn't have been mistaken. So they also didn't know what had happened. For a moment, many people used their divine abilities to investigate the other party. Some people even used eye techniques. However, they couldn't see anything. Lin Xian also narrowed his eyes. He had no choice but to activate the heavenly secret divine eye. A golden light appeared in his eyes. Buzz. He looked at the youth who had disappeared. Buzz. Lin Xian's pupils constricted. He shouted coldly, "Hurry up and attack." Elder Li, Xing Tian, and the others didn't know why Lin Xian said that, but Xing Tian still made a move. The huge palm above suddenly slapped down, enveloping the youth who had disappeared. "No, Temple Master. You can't kill me. I didn't do anything wrong." The youth's crazy roar alarmed all the people from the other sacred grounds and sections. For a moment, everyone looked over. The cultivators from Immortal Palace also had serious expressions. Many of them even turned pale. Although the situation was strange, They didn't know why Lin Xian didn't figure it out and directly attacked. Boom! Xing Tian's large palm slapped down, directly turning the youth who had disappeared into a bloody mist. Blood exploded and splattered in all directions. Many people cried out in alarm. However, they soon screamed. The reason for that was because countless black rays of light suddenly flew out from the blood mist and swept out in all directions. Bang, bang, bang. A few of Immortal Palace's cultivators were instantly entangled. Elder Li and Xing Tian roared. Damn it! There was indeed a problem. Majestic power rushed out of their bodies. Terrifying divine abilities surged forward and directly enveloped all the Immortal Palace's cultivators. Not good. Seeing this scene, the cultivators from the other sacred grounds and sects also roared angrily. They turned around and wanted to attack. Those disciples who had disappeared had a strange smile on their faces. Boom! Countless black rays of light shot out from their bodies like sharp black swords, piercing in all directions. The great sage lands, the great sects, and the imperial clans were all affected, and quite a few people were injured. Damn it! Attack him! Catch it! Capture him alive! Furious roars rang out one after another, as these experts attacked one after another. Boom! Boom! On Immortal Palace's side, Xing Tian continuously released more than 10 palms, blasting apart the void. Heaven and earth shook as a terrifying energy enveloped the surroundings. All of the black lights were sent flying and exploded in the air. They couldn't withstand the impact at all. Whoosh! The piercing black light quickly retracted, like a black waterfall. Ah! Some of the weaker ones had their necks wrapped around. Breathing was painful, and there were even traces of blood. The necks of the 2 Immortal Palace disciples were directly snapped. Not only the Immortal Palace, but the cultivators of the other holy lands and great sects were also killed. This scene infuriated everyone. Damn it! It was her hair! These black things were actually hair. Someone roared angrily. Lin Xian also noticed the situation. They discovered that the black light was indeed hair. It was densely packed and endless. It was nauseating. Countless strands of hair enveloped everyone from Immortal Palace. One of them rushed towards Lin Xian, Shen Jingqiu, and Morong Qingcheng. Lin Xian snorted coldly and raised his hand to release a sword light. Pooh! The strange hair was cut apart. Shen Jingqiu released a purple mist and completely enveloped all of the shattered hair. The hair disappeared without a trace. Purple qi from the east. Shen Jingqiu quickly formed a seal. Countless purple qi formed around her and completely enveloped Lin Xian and Morong Qingcheng. The black hair couldn't get close at all. Xing Tian, elderly, and the others quickly took action. Although the hair was strange, the people here were all experts, and many of them were peerless powerhouses. Therefore the hair quickly retreated. They fled into the distance and disappeared. Chase after them! Everyone roared. Lin Xian also chased after them with his people. They ran all the way and arrived at another hall. When they arrived at the main hall, they realized that the hair had disappeared into the void. It was as if it had never appeared. Damn it! The people from the Immortal Palace roared. Xing Tian even shattered the void with a punch, but it didn't appear again. What's going on? Did it disappear? Everyone was puzzled. They looked at the hall and wanted to investigate the situation. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, countless white figures appeared in the surroundings. There was a white figure standing in every direction. The white figures were strange and hazy. They were facing the crowd. They were dressed in white and had long hair that reached their waists. They seemed to be women. There were many similar white figures. They appeared at the edge of the hall and formed a circle, surrounding everyone. Damn it, what are these shadows? They were puzzled. Many of them didn't even see how they appeared. It was as if they appeared out of thin air. What the hell? Die for me! A martial artist from the 9 heavens sacred ground roared. He swung his saber, and a terrifying saber light slashed forward. It instantly hit the white figure. No! At this moment, an angry roar was heard. However, it was too late. The saber light had already hit the white figure. Let's see how you die. The martial artist from the 9 heavens sacred ground sneered. However, in the next moment, his body stiffened and the saber in his hand fell to the ground. His eyes widened, and his pupils shrank to the size of needles. It was as if he had encountered something terrifying. Bam! He fell to the ground, no longer breathing. Damn it, what's going on? What happened? Everyone was stunned. The people from the 9 heavens, sacred ground, roared crazily. Who is it? Who did it? They were about to go crazy. Because no one saw it clearly. This person wasn't attacked at all. How could he be killed? What was even more strange was that the young disciple who attacked was a genius. His strength had reached the almighty level. It wasn't easy to kill such a person. Soul attack. This was the first attack that came to everyone's mind. Because only soul attacks could appear and disappear mysteriously and kill people without leaving a trace. The people from the 9 heavens sacred ground looked at Lin Xian immediately. Chapter 2448. Damn it! What's going on? Do those white figures know soul attacks? So what if they do? A beauty from the Xiaoyao sect snorted. Whoosh! She opened her mouth and spat out a pagoda, which floated above her head and protected her soul. This was a treasure, and it was an exclusive treasure for soul defense. With it one could block soul attacks. Break! The beauty from the Xiaoyao sect quickly attacked after her soul was protected. A long rainbow streaked across the void and charged forward. Soon it pierced through a white figure. Everyone looked over with rapt attention. Many people's eyes were twinkling. Some of them even released their soul power. They wanted to see how strange Yi Chen's soul power was. The pink light pierced through the white figure. However, in the next moment, the beauty from the Xiaoyao sect froze and widened her eyes. Her face was full of fear. With a plop he fell to the ground, no longer breathing. Dead. Everyone was stunned. The people from the Xiaoyao sect looked even worse. Junior sister. Many of them rushed over and checked carefully. They found that the opponent's life force was already gone. What's going on? The others looked even more serious. They didn't find any soul power. They wanted to check carefully. Even if the opponent used his soul power, they would be able to detect it in an instant. More importantly, it was the pagoda worn by the beauty from the Xiaoyao sect didn't receive any attack at all. He was killed just like that. This meant that it wasn't soul power. Or maybe the opponent's soul power was so strong that they couldn't believe it. Impossible. They could feel the soul power of an invincible king. What kind of technique was that? They were going crazy. If they could not decipher these white figures, they would be trapped here for the rest of their lives, unable to leave. Lin Xian frowned. He also found that it wasn't a soul attack. What were those things? Were they ghosts? Shen Jingqiu was a bit scared, and Morong Qingshan's face was also cold. While everyone was confused, some people in the crowd spoke. They were resentful spirits. They didn't use soul attacks. They used resentful spirits, which were even stranger than soul attacks. What? Resentful spirits? Everyone turned around and looked. They found that the ones who spoke were a dozen monks from the Western Desert. Grandmaster, can you explain it in detail? That's right, Master. Is there any way to break it? The elders from the great sects all inquired. They thought they saw hope. That was because the monks of the Western Desert all cultivated some Buddhist divine powers, which were perfect for restraining these ghosts and evil creatures. With their help, they might really be able to subdue these vengeful spirits. The monks from the Western Desert nodded. It's indeed possible. Amitba Avalokitesvara. The monks began to chant scriptures. These were not ordinary scriptures, but the great success of Buddhism of the Western continent. It was very profound and profound. Coupled with the cultivation of these people, it could be said that its power was boundless. At this moment, everyone thanked themselves for calming down and stabilizing their mental states. How magical! These people were shocked. Lin Xian was also surprised. Although he had never interacted with the monks of the Western Desert, he could tell that these people were indeed extraordinary. In fact, it could even be said to be extremely terrifying. Between heaven and earth, the sound of Sanskrit rang out, bringing with it a mysterious and unfathomable energy. When the white figures heard this, they all let out miserable cries. Their bodies quickly melted like snow under the sun. Then they disappeared. Seeing that scene, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. That's great. Fortunately, the monks of the Western Desert were there. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for them to attack on their own. After all, resentment was an existence that was even more bizarre than souls. If they were not careful, they might be directly killed if the resentment was added to their bodies. It was just like the two prodigies from before. Let's go quickly. Everyone did not dare to delay. Lin Xian also led the people from the immortal palace forward. However, they had only walked halfway when they stopped in their tracks. That was because another figure appeared in the main hall in front of them. It was a white figure, just like the previous ones. However, this time he did not have his back to the crowd. Instead, he was facing them. His jet black hair covered his face, and his eyes were white. It was a very strange sight. His face was even paler. It was a ghastly sight. Many female disciples cried out in surprise. Xin Jingxiu also cried out in surprise. She grabbed Lin Xian's arm, and did not dare to look again. Morong Qingqing frowned. This wraith seemed to be more powerful than the previous ones. Oh no, it's a 10,000-year-old wraith. The few people from the western desert also turned pale with fright. Those white figures from before were all 1,000-year-old wraiths. Their cultivation was not high. They could be subdued. However, they had encountered a 10,000-year-old wraith. It was an extremely terrifying existence. As expected, they chanted Buddhist scriptures. Mysterious Sanskrit characters floated in the sky, forming a light screen that pressed forward. However, when it was 3 meters in front of the white figure, it stopped and could not go any further. Boom! In the next moment, the white 10,000-year-old wraith raised his head. A strange red light appeared in his eyes. All the Sanskrit characters in the sky shattered. Several Western desert monks also took a few steps back, their faces filled with shock. How terrifying! As expected of a 10,000-year-old wraith. Seeing that, everyone else was shocked and retreated one after another. If even the Western desert monks could not deal with it, things would be troublesome. Whoosh whoosh. Everyone took out their treasures and prepared to attack forcefully. Lin Xian also called Xingtian, elderly, and the others to get ready to attack at any time. He had the great dragon sword soul that could destroy everything, so he was not too worried. Even if the opponent was a 10,000-year-old wraith, he was confident that he could kill it with his great dragon sword soul. However, before he could make a move, another figure walked out from among the monks behind him. It was a young figure. He seemed to be a young prodigy of the western desert. "Elder, let me try," the young monk said with a smile. "All right." Seeing that the figure walked out, the monks heaved a sigh of relief. However, the people from the sacred grounds and major sects frowned. What's going on? Even the elders can't deal with it. How can a young monk defeat a 10,000-year-old wraith? They did not quite believe it. Chapter 2449. Wu. Just as everyone was in a daze, the 10,000-year-old vengeful spirit in front of them suddenly revealed a look of fear. In the next moment, she knelt on the ground, her head touching the ground, as if she was prostrating herself on the ground. Even her body was trembling slightly. "Leave quickly, don't look back, don't look at her." When the other monks saw this scene, they all called out to everyone. Heavens, what was going on? At this moment, the prodigies and elders of the great sage land, the great sects, and the royal family were all stunned. Wasn't this little monk too terrifying? He made a 10,000-year-old vengeful spirit kneel, just by putting on a Dharma idol? This was a 10,000-year-old vengeful spirit. Even the eminent monks of the western desert could not deal with it. Now it actually knelt to a little monk? If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would not have believed it even if they were beaten to death. At this moment, after hearing the reminders of the Holy Lands, Lin Xian and the others quickly walked forward. The people of the other Holy Lands also left one after another. However, at this moment, everyone felt a strange feeling behind them, as if someone was watching them. Some of the weaker martial artists even heard someone calling their names. Lin Xian also had the same feeling. Their faces were gloomy, and Lin Xian's expression was even more solemn, because he remembered that the mysterious little monk had told them not to look back. He did not know why they should not look back, but he knew that if they did, they would definitely be in danger. However, at this moment, they had a strong feeling of turning back in their hearts. Lin Xian, Morong Qingqing, elderly, and the others were powerful, so they were fine. However, those young martial artists were probably not going to make it. No matter how strong they were still a little lacking compared to the 10,000-year-old vengeful spirit. Therefore, those young martial artists of Immortal Palace were almost unable to control themselves. At this moment, Lin Xian shouted in a low voice. The great dragon sword soul in his body rushed out and circled above their heads, letting out a loud dragon roar. Roar! The great dragon sword soul enveloped all the Immortal Palace martial artists. Tens of thousands of sword lights descended, cutting off all connections. The Immortal Palace martial artists heaved a sigh of relief. They felt that the strong calling in their hearts had disappeared. This made them feel a lingering fear. They did not dare to look back and quickly walked forward. But others were not so lucky. A few five-element sect cultivators could not help but turn their heads around. Not only that, the entire Five Stars Palace was under attack, and so were the people of the Nine Heavens Holy Land. In addition, the Illusion Palace, the Unfettered Sect, and the other Sacred Land clans were also affected. A terrifying power of resentment swept out in all directions. Not good. The Western Desert monk's expression changed. The young monk's expression was grave as well. Unexpectedly, these people still couldn't hold back. Sigh. He sighed and pointed to the sky with one hand, and the ground with the other. But this time, he could only protect the people of the Western Desert. Wang. The imitation dragon pattern cauldron rushed out from the Wavering Light Holy Land, stabilizing the sky and protecting the people of the Wavering Light Holy Land. In the Grand Xia Empire, dragon-shaped auras also rushed out from the bodies of the elders, forming the true dragon diagram. He resisted the resentment. Other than that, the Five Elements Palace unleashed the Five Elements Mountain, while the Nine Heavens Divine Emperor formed 9 cauldrons that floated in the void. At this moment, the various families of the Great Sage unleashed their ultimate techniques one after another. They fled crazily. The vengeful spirit roared and pounced forward. Wang. A ball of Buddhist light appeared on the young monk's body. Amitabha. A loud Sanskrit voice sounded between heaven and earth, shocking the 10,000-year-old vengeful spirit. Using this opportunity, everyone was able to escape. When they completely left the temple, the terrifying resentment behind them disappeared. Everyone stopped and heaved a sigh of relief. Their expressions were extremely ugly. Among them, most of the forces were affected. Only the Western Desert, Lin Xian's Immortal Palace, the Wavering Light Holy Land, and the Empire of Great Swords were unharmed. Other than that, everyone had more or less lost their disciples. This made these people's expressions very ugly. They were afraid that this was only the early stage of the saint's tomb, and there were already such terrifying things. Who knew what kind of heaven-defying existences were deeper in? On the Immortal Palace's side, Elder Li and the others stood out and bowed slightly in the direction of the Western Desert. The others also expressed their gratitude. They had no choice but to thank the people of the Western Desert, especially the young monk, who had intimidated the 10,000-year-old vengeful spirit. Otherwise, the impact they received would have been even more serious. In fact, they might have been completely wiped out. May I ask your Dharma name? An elder from the Wavering Light Holy Land asked. Senior, you are too polite. I am a disciple of the Lanrua Temple. My Dharma name is No Flower. Lanrua Temple No Flower. Everyone silently remembered this name in their hearts. Needless to say, this was definitely a saint-level prodigy. Moreover, the other party's physique and bloodline were probably not simple. It was very likely that his background was frightening. That was because a Dharma idol could intimidate a 10,000-year-old vengeful spirit. This was definitely not something an ordinary monk could do. Everyone guessed that the other party should be like the Yi family's sacred physique, possessing a peerless bloodline. However, no one knew what kind of physique and bloodline it was. Western Desert No Flower. Lin Xian also took a few more glances at the other party. He had to admit that this No Flower was too mysterious. Morong Qingqing also said that the Lanrua Temple in the Western Desert was also a sacred place. However, they had never heard of this No Flower before. They did not expect him to display such heaven-defying means as soon as he appeared. It seemed that this was indeed a golden age with geniuses emerging in large numbers. I still think that big brother Lin Xian is the most powerful. Shen Jingqiu, who was at the side, squinted her crescent-shaped eyes and said, indeed she was not wrong. Many people looked in Lin Xian's direction and were extremely surprised. This was because other than the Western Desert, the Wavering Light Holy Land, and the Great Xia dynasty, only Lin Xian's immortal palace was intact. Chapter 2450. Relying on the light on their bodies and armor, they looked down and realized that there were countless bones. Some belonged to humans, some belonged to demonic beasts, and they covered the ground. They were as white as snow. This was probably not a good place to be. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. They could feel that the resentment in this place was deeper. Could there be 10,000-year-old vengeful spirits? These people were extremely nervous and could not help but gather in the direction of No Flower. Along the way, everyone was shocked. These bones were very fragile and turned into powder when stepped on. It seemed like they had existed for countless years. Among these bones, there were bones that were shining. This was even more shocking. After tens of thousands of years, these bones were still shining. How heaven-defying were these people's cultivation base when they were alive? No one dared to imagine. This made them even more careful. In front, their field of vision gradually widened. However, everyone's expression became more and more unpleasant because there were countless corpses piled up in front of them. Some of these corpses had already decomposed into bones. Some had not yet decomposed and still had flesh on them. They were densely packed and piled up like a mountain. It made one's scalp tingle. Lin Xian and the others knew that these were not ordinary corpses. Any one of them was probably a powerhouse. Why did these people die here? They did not know. Could it be that there was a great battle here? Or was it because of other reasons? These people were all guessing. Elemental grass. At this moment, Peacock exclaimed in surprise. What did you find? Lin Xian asked. Temple Master, I found elemental grass. Peacock pointed to a few black plants in front and said, I heard Ghostly mention this before. It's a very rare spiritual medicine. It has great benefits for those who cultivate the Ghost Tao. Ghost Spirit Wood. The martial artists from South Ridge also exclaimed in surprise. Their eyes were burning with passion because on the other side, there were a few purple trees growing near the corpses. They must be treasures of the elemental Ghost Tao. Haha. Then I won't hold back. A martial artist in a black robe sneered. He struck out a palm that covered the sky and grabbed forward. Humph. A sneer was heard. A fist like a meteor crashed into the land. Rumble. The heavens shook and the earth shook. The surrounding space cracked as the sky-covering hand was sent flying. The meteor-like fist also disappeared in the sky. Damn it, who is it? A black-robed man stood out, his voice cold as his gaze swept across the surroundings. What? You want to fight now? Ask me if I agree or not. A middle-aged man from the Four Symbols Holy Grounds stepped forward. For Symbols Sacred Grounds. The black-robed man frowned when he saw this. Humph. Your Four Symbols Holy Lands reach is too far. This is a death-type treasure. It's useless for your Four Symbols Sacred Grounds to have it. Useless? Who said it was useless? You also said that this is a treasure. How can it be useless if you sell it or exchange it? That's right. Everyone nodded in agreement. Indeed, although they didn't practice the darkness element, they could still trade for it. Presumably, after taking it out, those kings who cultivated the Ghost Tao of Darkness would be more than willing to trade it with them. However, the faces of the warriors from the South Ridge darkened. There were many black-robed men among them. They were probably cold ghosts. How could he possibly agree to that? To them, this was a supreme treasure. Scram. Otherwise, don't blame me for starting a massacre. The black-robed man shouted coldly. You can try. The middle-aged man from the Four Symbols Holy Grounds was fearless. Boom. He directly raised his hand and slammed his palm down. That palm transformed into a huge mountain, pressing down from the sky with boundless power. Courting death. The black-robed man was enraged when he saw this. With a wave of his sleeve, endless black gas transformed into a huge snake in the air. It opened its mouth and bit at the mountain above. Boom. 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 In the sky, Cracks appeared on the huge mountain. Then it collapsed and scattered in all directions. These black-robed men were so powerful. They could actually break through the four symbols' holy ground's mystique. The surrounding experts were also shocked. They were from the myriad poison cult. Stay away from them. They all carry lethal poison on them. Even a peerless mighty figure would probably die. Many people reminded him softly. Hearing this, the surrounding experts felt their scalps go numb. With a whoosh, they distanced themselves. However, the black-robed men sneered. Since you know we're from the myriad poison cult, why don't you scram obediently? All of these things are ours now. The surrounding experts' faces darkened when they heard this. What kind of joke was this? Although the myriad poison cult was powerful, it was only a peerless sect. Everyone here was a peerless sect, or a peerless holy ground. Why should they fear the myriad poison cult? However, no one made a move. They wanted to see how strong the myriad poison cult was. What was there to be arrogant about? On the other side, Shen Jingqiu pursed her lips. Lin Xian also narrowed his eyes. Peacock, do it. Bring those stalks of travel grass over. Yes. Upon hearing the order, Peacock stepped forward. She formed a seal with her palm, forming a green bottle that floated in the sky. Whoosh! Endless light flew out of the bottle, forming a silver river that swept towards the stalks of travel grass. Courting death. This is what the myriad poison cult wants. The myriad poison cult martial artists were enraged when they saw this. One of the black-robed men attacked again. In the sky, a black light lit up and directly cut the silver river in half. Whoosh! A black-robed man walked out. Girl, it seems like you don't understand our words. Very well, let me teach you a lesson. His voice was filled with boundless arrogance. Judging from his voice, he seemed to be from the younger generation. Courting death. Peacock also shouted. She was also a sky pride. How could she allow others to humiliate her like this? Boom! She directly attacked. Whoosh! With a wave of her sleeve, thousands of rays of light scattered and directly tore through the void. Those rays of light were like sword chi, soaring into the sky and slashing towards the black-robed man. I'll show you the power of Luo Yan today. The black-robed young man shouted coldly. He pulled out a white bone sword and directly attacked. Clang! The white bone sword collided with the rays of light in the sky, creating a deafening sound. The terrifying sound wave shook the surroundings. It shattered the entire space. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The martialists in the surroundings quickly activated their battle armor when they saw the two young geniuses clashing. They activated their defenses to resist the shockwaves of the battle. At the same time, the disciples of Five Elements Palace, Nine Heavens Sacred Ground, and other forces also flew out. They wanted to snatch the travel grass and Ghost Spirit Wood. In an instant, an intense battle broke out. On Peacock's side, the white bone sword was extremely powerful. It cut through the rays of light in the sky. The black-robed young man Luo Yan sneered. How dare you go against the myriad poison cult with such little strength? You're really courting death. Chapter 2451. No one knew what kind of beast's bone was used to make this white bone sword. It was abnormally sturdy. Moreover, it carried a demonic energy. As soon as it appeared, a cold aura blew over as if hell had appeared. It made one's scalp tingle. Peacock snorted coldly, and a blurry shadow appeared behind her. Peacock spread tail. Whoosh! The terrifying energy swept in all directions like a wave, and the white bone sword was instantly blasted away. Not only that, Peacock even slapped out with her jade-like hand. An endless divine light shrouded Luo Yan. The palm was too terrifying. It roared in the sky like a huge wave, and it covered the entire sky. The two of them fought fiercely. Luo Yan also used his ultimate move. His sword chi carried a strong corrosive effect. There was even poisonous gas coming out of his body. The poisonous gas could easily poison and kill a powerful being. That scene made everyone retreat, and they did not dare to get close. Fortunately, the illusory figure behind the peacock shone with 1,000 rays of light, isolating all of the poisonous gas. 1,000 demon eye. Boom! In the sky, the black spots on the peacock's tail rotated, forming demon god eyes, and they emitted a strange and unpredictable energy. Puffed! The black-robed youth Luo Yan suddenly vomited blood and was sent flying. His face was abnormally pale. Defeated. Seeing that, everyone exclaimed. Luo Yan's strength was terrifying, and his body was covered in poison. It could be said that he was very difficult to deal with. But now, he had been defeated so easily. The Immortal Palace's prodigy was too terrifying. These people were shocked. What kind of divine ability was that? It was so terrifying, like the demon god eyes. This woman was incredible. She seemed to have the bloodline of Mahamayuri. No wonder she was so powerful. Everyone was shocked. Peacock snorted and looked at the poison sect. Who else dares to fight with me for the traversing grass? Come and die. You're courting death. The other prodigy could not stand it anymore. His body swayed, and he rushed over again. This time, he used a black chain as his weapon. Like a poisonous snake, he attacked Peacock. The two of them fought again. Just as the battle was going on the other side, the people from Demon King Palace also walked over. Along the way, they had also encountered a terrifying shadow. Furthermore, there was also one person missing. This scene caused the faces of the people from the Demon Imperial Palace to turn gloomy. Yin Ruyu and Hua Tiandu both had grave expressions on their faces, because this place was truly too strange. Especially the elders of the Demon Imperial Palace, they all frowned. That's not right. Why does this mechanism not seem to belong to the demon clan, but to the human clan? They were extremely puzzled. They originally thought that the ancient tomb of the demon race would be much easier for them. But now, things were beyond their expectations. The mechanisms and formations along the way did not seem like they belonged to the demon race, but more like they belonged to the human race. But this shouldn't be the case. The two gates outside the ancient tomb were written in the ancient language of the demon race. How could it be a human ancient tomb? This made them extremely puzzled. Along the way, they fought off the strange hair and arrived at a large hall. They also encountered the white vengeful spirits. Not only that, but the 10,000-year-old vengeful spirit also appeared in an instant. His hair was disheveled, and his entire body emitted a monstrous aura, causing the martial artists of the Demon Imperial Palace to tremble. The elders' faces were even more solemn. Damn it, it's a 10,000-year-old vengeful spirit. How could there be such a terrifying thing here? The martial artists of the Demon Imperial Palace snorted coldly. Let's attack together and kill him. These people were all hot-tempered. However, one of the elders shook his head. Don't be rash, don't attack. Vengeful energy was very strange. They couldn't fight them head-on. They had to think of another way. Let me do it. Yin Ryu stepped forward. She looked ahead with a calm expression. Poof. She bit her finger and flicked a drop of blood in front of her. Buzz! The drop of blood was crystal clear, and there were even strange patterns on it. It was obvious that this was not ordinary blood. As expected, something strange happened. When the blood appeared and floated in the sky, the surrounding vengeful spirits all let out miserable cries. They all knelt down. The 10,000-year-old vengeful spirit in front of them also knelt down, his body trembling. This scene was very similar to the situation with No Flower, and it seemed to have caused an even greater commotion than No Flower. If the martial artists of the sacred land saw this scene, they would definitely exclaim in shock. Who was this woman? She was too terrifying. A drop of blood made a 10,000-year-old vengeful spirit kneel. What kind of blood was this? Even the blood of a sacred body probably couldn't reach this level, right? The people of the Demon Imperial Palace were also shocked, but they soon became excited. Sure enough, Hua Tiandu also laughed loudly. With a wave of his hand, the group quickly walked forward. Soon they left this palace. They were getting closer and closer to Lin Xian and the others. On Lin Xian's side, Peacock defeated another two people, making the myriad poison cult gnash their teeth. They didn't expect that Immortal Palace only sent out a young woman to suppress their myriad poison cult. This face slap was really loud. The surrounding people also sneered, looking like they were watching a show. Humph. You're very strong, but you dare to provoke my myriad poison cult? You're courting death. Now go to hell. Right at this moment, a cold voice sounded. A woman in a black robe walked out. This woman was extremely beautiful, and her eyes were even more soul-stirring. Myriad poison saintess. It was unknown who cried out in surprise. Everyone was shocked. They didn't expect the myriad poison saintess to make a move. This time there was a good show to watch. Peacock's expression was also serious. She could naturally sense the other party's strength. Sister Peacock, come back. I'll beat her up. Shen Jingqiu released Lin Xian's arm from behind and stood out. What? Peacock turned around and looked at Lin Xian with a questioning look. Lin Xian asked, Is Qiu okay? She's fine. I've wanted to make a move for a long time. Shen Jingqiu was also very excited. Indeed, there weren't many opportunities for her to make a move. Now she finally had one. Moreover, it was the vicious myriad poison saintess. How could she let go of this opportunity? Let her try. Anyway, we're all here. Nothing will go wrong. Morong Qingcheng, who was standing to the side, also smiled. All right then, Peacock, come back. Yes. Peacock retracted her 1,000 demon eyes and returned to Lin Xian's side. She stood respectfully behind him. Shen Jingqiu, on the other hand, stood up excitedly. She pointed her jade-like fingers forward. You're the saintess of all poisons? What moves do you have? Bring it on. Little girl, you really don't know what's good for you. Look at how cute you are. When you turn into a skeleton later, it will be a beautiful scene. I've decided to seal your skeleton and make it part of my collection. Ah, what a vicious woman. Take this. Chapter 2452. Although Shen Jingqiu looked cute, she was not careless at all when she attacked. After all, she was Saintess Zixia. Sure enough, as soon as the divine ability was used, everyone around exclaimed. The saints and saintesses also frowned. Her strength was not weaker than theirs. Hee hee. The saintess of all poisons sneered. Let me see what kind of ability you have. As she spoke, her figure flashed and she rushed over. In an instant, she dodged the purple palm. At the same time, she waved her 2 black sleeves, drawing out 2 poisonous snakes that circled in the air and attacked Shen Jingqiu. The 2 black pythons in the sky spun and stirred the void, exuding a cold aura. In an instant, they came to Shen Jingqiu's side and coiled around her. Little girl, your combat experience is not very good. The saintess of all poisons sneered. The others were also discussing. They could also see that Shen Jingqiu's combat experience was obviously insufficient. This Saintess Zixia did not live up to her reputation. She fell into the opponent's trap so easily. It seemed that the opponent had not fought many battles. This time, she was probably out of luck. Voices of discussion sounded. Shen Jingqiu's small face was cold. She snorted and formed a seal with her palms. A cloud of purple gas rushed out of her body and wrapped her up. It spun quickly and formed a purple vortex. The purple vortex spun, and a terrifying energy surged in all directions like a stormy sea. This energy knocked away all the attacks. Seeing this, the people of Immortal Palace breathed a sigh of relief. Lin Xian and Morong Qingcheng's expressions also eased a lot. The martial artists and elders of the other sacred lands were also discussing. It seemed that although she was not very experienced, she was still a saintess. Her strength was not to be underestimated. Indeed, the strength Shen Jingqiu displayed was definitely at the saintess level. It was just that her combat experience was a little weaker. However, unless a real saint or saintess attacked her, it would be difficult for others to suppress her. However, this time, the one who attacked Shen Jingqiu was indeed the saintess of all poisons. The myriad poison saintess was surprised to see her attack deflected. Then she sneered. Not bad, little girl. You actually managed to dodge it. However, even if you can avoid it this time, can you avoid it the next time? Humph. Shen Jingqiu snorted coldly and quickly made her move. Purple chi revolved around his body, forming 9 purple moons above him. The 9 purple moons rotated, stirring up the void, and 9 purple vortexes appeared. The space around her shattered, and the 9 moons radiated boundless divine light as they charged toward the saintess of all poisons. 9 moons connecting the skies. This was a great divine ability of the purple afterglow holy land. The surrounding people also cried out in surprise. Sure enough, the 9 moons spun in the sky. The saintess also stopped smiling. She felt a great pressure. It was as if the sky was pressing down on her. and all the bones in her body were making cracking sounds. Humph! The myriad poisoned saintess decisively took action. Her body was suffused with multicolored light that shot into the sky. These were all different types of poisonous gas. As soon as they appeared, they melted the void and surged upwards, wanting to melt the 9 suns together. Boom! 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 The two collided with earth-shattering sounds. A wave of energy swept out in all directions. Everyone retreated, putting some distance between them. At the same time their armor lit up. Lin Xian and Morong Qingqing stared fixedly at the battlefield. Fortunately, they were relieved to see that Shen Jingqiu and the Saintess of all poisons were evenly matched. The Saintess of all poisons snorted coldly. A dozen black vipers appeared behind her, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws as they charged. They clashed with the 9 suns. The two of them fought an earth-shattering battle. However, no one noticed that the situation around them had changed. The shockwaves of energy entered the corpses, as if they were being absorbed. Boom! 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 At first nothing happened. However, after absorbing enough energy, the mountains of corpses emitted low rumbling sounds, as if a peerless demon was slowly awakening. An abnormally cold and frightening power emanated from his body. The martial artists of the various holy lands and great sects trembled as they felt a chill run down their spines. However, they did not think too much about it. In their opinion, it was probably the shockwaves of the battle between the two saintesses that made them tremble instinctively. However, the elders frowned. Something was wrong. This aura was not right. On the Immortal Palace's side, Xing Tian and Elderly also frowned. Something was wrong. Hearing this, Lin Xian hurriedly said, "Qiu'er, come back." In the sky, Shen Jingqiu controlled the 9 moons to contend against the Saintess of all poisons. When he heard Lin Xian's words, he launched another earth-shattering attack. The 9 moons connected into one, shooting out a half-moon purple light that directly cut the void in half. The purple light slashed toward the Saintess of all poisons, wanting to cut her in half. The Saintess of all poisons used 5-colored poison gas to block this earth-shattering attack. She wanted to attack again, but Shen Jingqiu had already returned to Lin Xian's side. "Big brother Lin Xian, what's wrong? I can still fight. Don't attack first. The situation is not right." Lin Xian stopped Shen Jingqiu and looked around with a serious expression. On the other side, the Saintess of all poisons also felt a trace of cold aura, but she did not attack. The other people who were fighting also looked around, as if they were facing a great enemy. "Listen, what is that sound?" A martial artist of the 9 Li dynasty said with a frown. Roar! Boom! Sure enough, everyone heard an unusual sound, and it was getting louder and louder. Damn it, it's coming from the corpses. The martial artists of the 9 heavens sacred ground were terrified. What? Inside the corpses? Could it be that there's something alive inside? Is it a zombie? These people were facing a great enemy. These were the corpses of ancient experts. If they turned into zombies and came back to life, it would be extremely terrifying. They did not want such a thing to happen. However, things did not go as they wished. The mountain of corpses suddenly cracked open, and then a few figures stood up. Oh no, they really turned into zombies. Seeing this scene, the martial artists of the great sage land felt their scalps go numb. Lin Xian and the others frowned. Armor appeared on their bodies and their eyes shone. They were ready to attack at any time. What made them heave a sigh of relief was that there were not many people who stood up, only 7 figures.